Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, Jerome Marshall, good afternoon to you. MRUI5WD, good afternoon. PF Cutters, good afternoon to you. Hmm. Marlon McAllister, good afternoon. Ruckman Gangadine, Hot Mango, good day to you. Diane Charles, hi Diane. Jamun Alenu, good afternoon to you. Wazid, Christopher Coffee, Jaden Bose. Slimy Show, Jeremy Lewis. Good afternoon to all of you. Yes, I'm very late today, um, and I'm not going to be that long today because today was the First People Santa Rosa First Peoples. Um, they had their feast today, so they had their mass at the Catholic Church, followed by a procession through Arima, and then they had the blessing of their village. Um, so it's a day of activities taking place up in Arima opposite the Catholic Church. We park opposite the Catholic Church and also at the First People's their facility as well. So I understand there's a little bit of a rift between the First People's and the Catholic Church. So both entities are doing something separate this year. So you could decide which one you want to patronize. But I think both of them have entertainment later on this evening, parang and so on. So um, yeah, so I have to head back out in a little bit to do my MP duties and participate. So yeah, it's a lot to do. And there's also a car show, I think, taking place in the Arima Velodrome as well. So I also gotten an invitation to that. So I give a commitment that I will pass through briefly and show my face there too. Um, see here, K. Borrell, Ray Stealth, um, Wayne Pedro, Leon Joseph, greetings. Let me jump into it. Um, One time, let's see. So, right, so we saw a performance early last week that was deserving of an Oscar, a Grammy, an Emmy Award, coming from Felicia Thomas and Barry Padarath. Right? And of course, I'm referring to the impasse between the PSA and the management of WASA over stalled wage negotiations. And we saw after, a couple of days of grand charging and showmanship by Felicia, um, talking about, well, we're not leaving the compound until we speak to management and so on. So we're going to be here all night and all of that. Minister Padarat would have shown up, I think, on Monday, like a knight in shining armor, or like well, let me keep it friendly, you know, like a man with a very bad toupee and a dirty black Prado, came to Grand Charge. So you manufacture a crisis and then pretend to fix it, right? So because Felicia indicated that since January she submitted proposals to the management of WASA and there's been no progress. And so they had to resort to doing what it is they did last week, what appeared to be protest. But conveniently, she had sufficient WASA workers on hand, PSA workers on hand, when the minister showed up. Surprisingly, hey, minister, it's so good to see you. Madam President, how are you doing? All that folly. Perfectly scripted show on Monday, right? And then he comes and he addresses the workers and the few people who Felicia was able to rally to cheer for the arrival of the minister. That is performance. You see, as soon as the minister show up and right. But we've been here before, Trinidad and Tobago. Do not be fooled. For those of us with short memory, We've been here before. In fact, we were here just a little over 2 months ago. So back in May, 2nd of May to be precise, May Day, I think they had their celebrations. So don't be fooled by the little play all you saw last week, right? This is the 2nd of May. Guardian article dated the 2nd of May, 2026. Padarat intervenes in WASA PSA wage impasse. 113 days ago. Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarat has ordered the management of the Water and Sewerage Authority to immediately resume wage negotiations with the Public Services Association. In a statement to Parliament yesterday, Padarat said the PSA is a valuable partner with the government and apologized for what he said was a unilateral decision by WASA to stop negotiations. As Minister of Public Utilities, I intervened in an impasse between WASA and PSA. I spoke with both the CEO acting of WASA, Mr. Dane Maharaj, and the president of PSA, Felicia Thomas, he told Parliament. His comment came after Thomas led workers to the HR department on the 2nd floor of the St. Joseph branch of WASA, singing and clapping and demanding their monies. Guardian Media was told that there was supposed to be a meeting with the WASA executives, but that was cancelled. Thomas, however, did go to the 4th floor where she met briefly with Mr. Maharaj. Padarat added, I instructed WASA to meet with the PSA to continue negotiations today, Mr. Speaker. PSA continues to be a valuable partner in the government, and WASA regrets the unilateral action of one employee in bringing about this situation. One employee. Who was the one employee? When Guardian Media approached Thomas after the meeting, she said she had no comment. The PSA is the chief member of the coalition of interest, the conglomerate of unions in support of the government. Thomas, who was a WASA employee, denied that the action taken was a form of protest when told by Guardian Media that they had heard and saw the protest, and she replied, a protest against the government? You saw a protest against the government? She added, today is May Day. Asked how the meeting with Mr. Maharaj went. Thomas said, excellent as usual. She added that she would address the membership in due time, and when asked how soon the PSA would discuss the outcome of the meeting with its members. And while at the protest, Guardian Media overheard several employees discussing the real sense of it, saying, it was just for show. This is back in May. Guardian Media said they overheard some of the WASA workers saying, this was just for show. One man said Thomas could have easily WhatsApped the man, that is Mr. Maharaj, given that the government and the PSA are on good terms. Same thing I was saying. You're trying to tell me Felicia couldn't just pick up the phone and send a WhatsApp message to Paddy and say, what's going on? And you tell them people in May, since in May, you tell them to sort this thing out and it's still going on. Shoot a call now and organize a dole. We had to be going through this. So we know this was just a whole production with the two of them. But say, you see, look at performance, PNM, look at the difference. The minister himself show up and he intervened and he gave instructions, but he gave instructions back in May too, just as he gave instructions last week. So are we going to be back here in 3 months' time? October, around the budget? Felicia knows how this thing goes, right? We're almost at the end of August. So we have September. The budget is due sometime in early October. If we go by what they did last year, where it was mid-October, around the 13th, I think it was, you might come back with a similar timeline. But if there is no allocation in the budget to pay the monies, you got to wait at least another half year to the mid-year review. And we know they ain't going to do that. So just looking like another year. But Felicia only given her membership a 649. Right? And this is the stalling government. This is stalling government. All mama guy people took their votes on credit. You got a 10%. You get the people vote you in office. Now you enjoying your big salary that you say you didn't want. Your $80-something thousand a month take home. $100 and something thousand a month before tax. Right? You enjoying that since May last year. Meanwhile, these workers who gave you their vote and helped to put you in office so you could enjoy that nice salary plus the other benefits, still waiting on the little kakada that you all promised them you would give to them if they put you in office. 1 year plus, they're still waiting. Only taking chain up from Felicia. Meanwhile, Felicia living her best life. When we thought Felicia was just on the board of NCRHE, turns out she's also on the board of the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. 2 boards. Like, they have a shortage of personnel. So people, 2010 to 2015, the policy was no one person would serve on more than 1 board. Now, man serving on 3 and 4 boards. And it is also alleged that Felicia's husband is also on a board. So the director fees that Felicia getting from being on the board of NCRHA, being on the board of Cipriani Labor College, plus if in fact her husband is on a board, as 3 sets of director fees going to Felicia's household for the month, which could pay quite a few of her bills, I'm sure. That is well over $10,000. Yeah. Going to her household every month. So she probably don't even have to touch her PSA salary. While some of them had to be trotting at 5 o'clock in the morning to head out to the bus route to get a maxi, or stand up in the hot sun after work to get a maxi to go back home. Felicia driving around in BMW, courtesy your membership dues, and only fooling all year. She getting invited to all the government events, right? And only feeling it and all of that, and she eating the best, drinking the best, and whining and dining with the best. And meanwhile, like I even see her invitation. Some of them, this is the first time they see Padarat in the flesh since he became minister. But taking chin up. I only fool up from Felicia. But something wrong with Tolia. Something wrong with Tolia. But Tolia vote for that. So expect to see more of that. Okay? We're going on with the back pay. We're still on 60-40. We get the 80-20 that Felicia asking for. Going on. You're not interested in getting a little. Anyway. Moving on to other things that happened last week. Right. So let me get this here. So let's see. Where is it? Prime Minister rejects union's call for input on new Point Lisa Steel Company. Let's get into that a little bit. Let me get this here. One thing we don't know. Right. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar is rejecting calls by the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago for a chance at input in the reopening of the former ArcelorMittal steel plant in Point Lisas by Ibis Steel, saying the US-backed company is free to hire any citizen it considers suitable. Mr. Bailey and his union had 10 years to take over the plant or get an investor and failed to do so. My job is to bring investment to our country. If some citizens want to chase out investors, so be it. It's their and their children's futures that they are destroying, not mine or the foreign investors, Persad-Bissessar said yesterday in response to the union's calls at a media conference earlier. The Prime Minister said that the US-based Pinnacle Steel and Vanadium is a private company and there is no basis for restricting employment opportunities at its proposed Ibis Steel Company plant to former steel workers. Every citizen looking for employment is entitled to apply to them for jobs. So what about if they're only looking for foreigners, madam? When they decide they're going to bring in their own people? You have a problem with that? No, not at all. In fact, we will fast track their work permits. Because if you look at the construction taking place for the new US Embassy headquarters on Long Circular Road, I recall a couple months ago passing by there around lunchtime and seeing quite a few men wearing turbans heading out for lunch. Some of them were sitting down outside the wall, eating and so on. I'm saying, but who are these turban-wearing men? Clearly, they didn't look like trainees. But who am I? Eh? Yeah, I just say, I saw. So if they decide, well, we don't want to hire trainees or too many trainees, we want to bring our own because we can't find the expertise here. Rest assured, Persad-Bissessar will have absolutely no issue with that. Last Monday, Ibis Steel officially kicked off site refurbishment while announcing plans to pump an overall US 750 million into the development with the potential to generate up to 1,000 permanent jobs. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said it would be unfair to other citizens seeking employment if opportunities at the plant were reserved exclusively for former steel workers. She also rejected the union's position that it should be treated as a stakeholder in the project. Further, the Steelworkers Union and Mr. Bailey are not stakeholders in that project, so there is no need for either myself or Pinnacle Steel to engage with them. Prasad Bissasa's response came hours after SWUTT President Timothy Bailey called for dialogue between government and the new plant owners, warning that the union wanted outstanding issues concerning former steelworkers resolved amicably rather than through legal action. He said the union had deliberately allowed last week's ribbon-cutting ceremony to take place without publicly raising its concerns, but believes it is now time for the workers to have their say. The reopening of the steel plant cannot and does not mean that doors must be closed on the people that built it. He said Steelworkers Union had represented workers throughout the industry since 1980 and that expertise should be a part of the reopening process, and Bailey also stressed that the union is not opposed to new owners. We are not monsters. We are open to collaboration. We are open to cooperation. He said the union was prepared to forgive what it considers its exclusion from the initial process and move forward, but insisted the right approach must now be adopted. He said more than 2,000 steelworkers were displaced following the closure of the industry, including 644 permanent ArcelorMittal workers and employees of contractors who had spent decades working at the plant. Bailey said more than 45% of the union's steelworkers are prepared to return to the facility, and the union has already compiled information on their skills, areas of expertise, and previous departments. Right. So basically, for 10 years under the PNM, we had to listen to the UNC gripe about this steel plant and how Rowley and the PNM allowed the steel plant to close, and all these people, the 644 workers who lost their jobs, and the impact that it had on the fence line communities. Oh, they were so concerned. Now, Prime Minister says suck salt. Suck salt. They come and tell me about all you want consultation and collaboration and you want to input nothing. We can't tell the people who to hire. They will hire who they want. The hell with all you. We were concerned about you all when we were in opposition because it was convenient. Now we're in government. Well, don't need all you. We're here for at least 5 years, so you can gripe and say whatever it is you want. Now, let me just read something here again, quoting the Prime Minister. She said Mr. Bailey and his union had 10 years to take over the plant or get an investor and failed to do so. Why does that sound familiar? That does sound familiar to you all? Because we know another company called, another union, OWTU, another company called Patriotic Technologies, had 8 years to take over the refinery. They had 8 years to find an investor and failed to do so. They tried several times. Government gave them preference and they failed to do so. But yet still, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa and her team kept faith with these people. So much so that they came on the 18th of June this year and decided through an act of parliament to make the OWTU the official representative union for all of the subsidiaries that fall under TPHL, which is Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited, which is parent company for Heritage, Paria, and Guaracara, which is the holding company for the refinery. So it means that should they find a company to restart the refinery, a foreign company, just as a foreign company is looking to restart the steel mill, this foreign company will not have the same luxury as the steel mill company. They will have to deal with the OWTU. So I do understand how the Prime Minister could say, well, yeah, 10 years to take over everything and all you do it. And don't come and cry tears for me now. Don't come to ask me to impose on the people and tell them that they have to hire you all. What? I ain't nothing about no local content. Miss me with that. Hard luck. It was convenient before. So it's one rule for one and another rule for another. So I don't know if it is that the Steelworkers Union didn't pledge support for the UNC. Perhaps they were not part of the Yellow is the Code. I don't know if they're part of the coalition of interest. Maybe if they were, they would get the blessings like what PSA is getting and OWTU getting, but maybe they weren't vocal enough. So, yeah, the PM don't really care about Oli. But the fact that she would say there is no basis for restricting employment opportunities at its proposed Ibis Steel Company plan to former steel workers. Let me get this here. So, right. She says, my job is to bring investment to our country. If some citizens want to chase out investors, so be it. It is their and their children's futures that they are destroying, not mine or foreign investors. So I want to ask Prasad Bisesa, when you, through your irresponsible self, chased out Naveen Jindal, who was interested in restarting the refinery, who expressed interest in acquiring the refinery, when you and your fully done supporters were talking about how the refinery belongs to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and we don't want it to lease out to any foreigners and you can't sell it to no foreigners and so on, and the government, when he was stinking up Jindal's name all over the place, claiming that he was part of a corrupt cook-up between Maduro and Rowley, talking about how he's a criminal and he have criminal charges in India and so on, and you chased him away. Were you concerned, madam? Just asking you about your children's future, your grandchildren's future. I'm just asking you. Were you concerned that you were destroying their futures? When you and your fully done supporters were maligning the Sandals project, right? The dog liar, that bald-headed lout, and others were all over the place lying, talking about how the government going and spend $2 billion of taxpayers' money to build the Sandals Resort, and they're going and build on no man's land, and all the concessions that they're going to give to Sandals, and all these things. And you chased Sandals out, talking about we want to know what is in the MOU. We want to know. Transparency. We want disclosure. Right? You all wanted that. Till the late Gordon Butch Stewart, then chairman of Sandals, says, see this? Trinidad and Tobago too blasted political. I don't need this. Right? Because I have other Caribbean countries that literally banging down my door, begging for me to come and put a Sandals in their country. So why do I need to come here and have to put up with this stupidness, with all this Seta Bacchanal and Rara allegations? I don't need that. I don't need these people tarnishing my brand. When you have a newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago publishing lies, and then when I call them out and my son calls them out on their lies, they decide to go and publish a story about an incident that allegedly took place 2 years before at Sandals Resort in Bahamas or wherever, where an American couple that had gone there to get married, and they had a butler assigned to them, and it is alleged that the butler would have molested the bride. 2016, that is alleged to have happened, but in 2018, this local newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago, because they get called out for the lies by the Sandals group, rather than defend the story and defend what is the content of the story, decide to come and attack, to go on the attack and publish the story that was 2 years old, causing Mr. Stewart and his team to pack up and go. You weren't concerned then about chasing investors, madam? Back when it was Keith Rowley's job, as you say, it is your job to bring investment to our country. Keith Rowley did that before he became Prime Minister. While you were still Prime Minister, Rowley was out there looking for investment. And he was able to convince Sandals to come and take a look at Tobago. And they came. And he was willing to facilitate them. And when it became his job to do that, you and your team decided to malign the project, right? Along with the assistance of Watson Duke, talking about, oh, when we get into power, they will come back. 15 months after, 16 months after, Dr. Rowley was able to negotiate with Sandals to come back and take a second look and to sit down with the THA and to have discussions on how we could advance this project. Nothing has happened. They came, they met, they left. Nothing. We have, I think, is it 2 or 3 Trinidadians sitting on the board of Sandals? Has this government approached any of them with a view to, asking them, well, see how you all could advance this project now because Tobago needs it. Its tourism product needs it. Have you done that? You say your job is to bring investment. What have you done to advance that cause? Nothing. But now you're vexing at people who you feel imposing on you in doing your job to bring investment to Trinidad and Tobago. But when you were doing the same nastiness and trying to impede Keith Rowley and the PNM from doing their job to bring investment to Trinidad and Tobago, it was all good. You had no problem with that. And your fully done supporters supported you in that misadventure. But today, you're coming to talk about my job is to bring investment to our country. What type of investment? Okay. So when you were stymieing foreign investment, you weren't destroying the futures of the nation's children. We weren't destroying the nation's future. No, you weren't doing that. You were looking after the best interests of the country, right? Of course you were. Yesterday was yesterday and today is today. I recall a man who is a very good friend who helped you all get into office, told a very large multinational energy company, take your blasted rig and go. What that was, that wasn't chasing investment away. What was that? What did you have to say on that? Did you condemn it? Take your rig and go. And they did just that, took their rig and went to Mexico. And workers down in La Brea lost out. You weren't concerned then about foreign investment coming into the country because it wasn't your responsibility then, it was Keith Rowley's. So you decide to join the bandwagon to chase investment away and then say the economy crash and the economy crash. Hypocrisy. But I'll tell you workers, you still workers. Well, when they start to advertise positions, send in your resume, keep your fingers crossed and hope for the best because the Prime Minister says she's not helping all that. She couldn't care less if you all remain unemployed. It's neither here nor there with her. You all had 10 years to make something happen. You did nothing. In her words, don't know where she expected you all to get the money from. But she's assisting OWTU, right? Meanwhile, we keep hearing Munilal talk about growing interest in the refinery and growing. Since January, we're hearing about these interests, and yes, everybody interested in the refinery. As I saw one man commented yesterday under the post on Facebook, he said, with all this interest, just now we will have the police will have to charge these companies for molesting the refinery. Everybody interested, showing interest. Okay. I wonder how WTU and Patriotic feeling about that. All this interest. 8 months now. Since January, people expressing interest and 8 months can't get an answer. 8 months, no engagement whatsoever. And interest continues to grow. Companies, more and more people, more and more entities continue to show interest. So when do we move beyond the stage of receiving interests, expressions of interest, to actually sitting down and having a discussion on the way forward with respect to the refinery? Because August almost done. And as I said, since January, in fact, before that, since last year, we've been hearing about all these entities that express an interest. Munilal went to India. How many companies in India express interest? He went to Guyana for the energy conference. See people there express interest. Suriname, they express an interest. And now they're getting unsolicited expressions of interest from all over the place. You just getting interest, and you ain't doing nothing. Okay. All right, if you say so, Mr. Munilal. We're good. You could only fool the foolish and the fully done. So we saw another company, another union that is now at loggerheads with the government. One of the few unions that did not pledge fealty to the coalition of interests, did not sell their birthright, did not capitulate at the counter of expediency, remained neutral, and has continued to battle this government. And unlike in the case of the PSA, where because their leader and her political leanings has compromised that union, right? And so the government willing to play ball with them. When last week they put on that little show, and week before, with respect to the Communication Workers Union, the response was government will not be bullied, coming from the Minister of Public Utilities. Government will not be intimidated. Barry responds to CWU on TSTT wage dispute. So Felicia could threaten, and Barry show up. 2 twos, pull up outside Wassa, jump out the back of the van. Yes, I came to speak to the workers. I saw what was taking place. I was not aware. Blame the management. So he don't know what's going on in Wassa. He's the Minister of Public Utilities. You see him protest, or what appeared to be protest, on the TV, on the newspapers. And it's Wassa board and the Wassa management, because they could make decisions of a financial nature where you have to get money from the government. They apparently could make unilateral decisions without consulting the government. Okay. All right, Barry, if you say so. If you say so. So you don't know what's going on in Wassa. You had to come down personally. You couldn't pick up the phone and call Dean Maraj and say, hey, what's going on? What is this about? Of course, yeah. We buy in the story that he didn't know, and he didn't play a part in this whole, that this wasn't a production, right? So you can pick up the phone and call the man and say, hey, all embarrassing the government. We need to be able to say promise made, promise kept, promise delivered. What is this? Felicia is one of our closest partners in the trade union movement. Be yourself. Couldn't do that. You couldn't pick up the phone and call Felicia and say, Felicia, what's this about? Come on, you know, you could have just give me a call. You have any issues? I could have reached out to the management and tell them, deal with that. What happened? No. So we hear in threats. 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night, Felicia doing live in the car park in Wassa, talking about we not leaving here tonight. Making demands. This is nonsense. Management jump in the car and they go home. They want to talk to us. We let them know it's not business as usual. We're telling the workers, no work as usual. Depending on how you read that. No work as usual or no work as usual. Take your pick. One way, well, they ain't doing work anyway, so status quo remains, or you're working, but we putting that on pause for a little bit. Right? So you all will not be working as usual. But Barry didn't perceive that as a threat. Right? He didn't say they wouldn't be intimidated. But CWU, Ms. Ojir, who jamming him left, right, and center, and she keeps reminding him and the population, we did not sign on to this coalition of interest. We did not sell our souls for 2 pieces of silver. Ain't like that. Where he said Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarat has warned that the government will not be bullied or intimidated by the Communication Workers Union amid an escalating wage dispute with TSTT. Padarat said yesterday there has never been any discussion with the union about a 10% wage increase, stressing that TSTT's recent profitability must be considered in the context of the company's long-term sustainability. Okay. But Wassa that in debt since Jesus was in Pampers, since King Hatchet was a hammer. But you're not concerned about their long-term profitability, right? You're not concerned about their long-term sustainability. Wassa, which is one of the biggest drains on this treasury. Every year, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars has to be paid to subsidize Wassa. TSTT last Friday warned Communications Workers Union that industrial action was against the law and that any threat to shut down the company over a disputed 10% wage increase would be prohibited under the Industrial Relations Act, since telecommunications is classified as an essential service. So water is not an essential service? Water is not an essential service. The only company in the country that provides water to citizens of this country, right? The only one. TSTT is just one of a number of companies that offer, aside from telecommunication services, you know, in terms of cable TV, internet, and so on. So even if TSTT playing up in the monthly salary, you still have options. If Wassa playing up in the monthly salary, you don't have no options. There's nobody else to go to and apply for a water supply. You can't do that. It's Wassa, full stop. Full stop. But nobody in WASA told Felicia and her union, hey, that is an essential service. Relax yourself. Okay? Nobody told Felicia and her union, as was told to CWU, that what it says here, let me read it again, that any industrial action is prohibited under the Industrial Relations Act, since water is classified as an essential service. Or is it we taking it for granted that people don't get water anyway? Or the water supply is what it is? So, different strokes for different folks. However, CWU Secretary General Joanne Ojiru declared that heads will roll come Wednesday and insisted that the union will be acting within the law, rejecting TSTT's warning to workers. Last month, TSTT and its subsidiary Amplia Communications Limited posted their strongest financial performance in 17 years, reporting an after-tax profit of $214 million for the financial year ended March 31st, 2026, a 103% increase over the previous year. The group reported an after-tax profit of $106 million for the financial year ended March 31st, 2025. Bharat said TSTT's success did not come about through luck and that the company had been on a new trajectory since the UNC entered office. So they're making profits. We can't pay 10%. WASA making no profits. Draining the treasury, but we're dealing with that. All right. So CWU decided, well, we're going to protest. They did what is required by the law, applied for permission to march, permission to protest, and from what we would have read, permission was granted. And then it was rescinded by the TTPS. Look at this here. CWU protest cancelled after police rescinds permission. A planned protest by the Communication Workers Union outside TSTT House in Port of Spain was cancelled at the last minute on Friday morning after police contacted the union to withdraw the permission for the demonstration. Communication Workers Union Secretary General Joanne Ojiru said she was informed by the police in a phone call early Friday that the protest could no longer proceed. Ojiru said permission had been granted for the demonstration as recently as Thursday, and she had been told that the union could proceed provided the protest remained peaceful. However, she said she was later informed that the authorities had not considered the 500-meter restriction on public protests under the state of emergency regulations. So somebody forget to pull the measuring tape and say, all right, 500 meters. So somebody, hey, call a constable there for me. Tell him go and pull a measuring tape and go down by TSTT and run the tape from there to the Red House. And see how many feet is that. Didn't do that before. Okay. We're supposed to believe that was the issue, right? The regulations prohibit public protests or demonstrations within 500 meters of several designated locations, including the Ministry of Finance at the Eric Williams Financial Complex on Independence Square. The ministry is a block from the location where CWU planned to protest. The restriction was introduced under the Emergency Powers Order 2026. Ojiru said the union was therefore forced to call off the protest, and the CWU had announced the demonstration for noon at Friday at TSTT House. The matter is developing. Right. So as I said, somebody in police admin building at the corner of Sackville and Edward Street forgot to pull the measuring tape after the fact. Right? I think TSTT House is at the bottom of Edward Street and Independence Square. So, the Red House is so. The Ministry of Education is just a little way up the road. And then you have the Ministry of Finance is just a little way down the road. One corner. Yeah? One corner down. The Central Bank, one corner down. All right, so now no protest for it. You couldn't say, well, yeah, what now? Would you like to protest somewhere else? You can go up the road. Go up the road. Find somewhere else to do it now that is not within 500 meters of any of these places. See See how this government operates? So it is very difficult to protest within the Port of Spain area because some of the main places you would choose to protest falls within 500 meters. Why not 250? 500. Okay? So for the communication workers to go and protest, they probably had to head up to the savannah. No, you can't protest here because Prime Minister's residence. So if you're protesting here, when we drop the measuring tape, you have the Prime Minister's residence right there and the President's house right there. So now, forget that. Yeah, I have no place in town for a little protest. Go down Shagaramas. Go down Shagaramas and protest. And nobody can see you here and it is of no consequence whatsoever. Go down so. But then I tell you, too close to Tetron and too close to Stobles Bay. I go down Macquarie Beach. Go down by the golf course. Further away, where nobody could see you here or there. But they accuse Rowley and the PNM of being a dictatorship. People could have protest all they want. UNC supporters used to come and line up in front of the Red House. They come and they line up in Woodford Square. And when Dr. Rowley pull up, they boo, all kind of thing. Rowley's a old, he's a pedophile, he's a this, he's a that. I told you all, when, I think it was on the day that Parliament when Parliament opened last year, on the day that we took our oath of office, and Brian and I arrived at the Red House at the same time. And as we were walking in, we had some UNC supporters across the road and, "What a shame, at PNM, what a shame, go from here." I never heard them. We were elected and we had a right to be there just as everybody else. Just as the 26 plus the 2 rubber stamp from Tobago, we had every right to be there. All right? We had more right than they had. But I didn't stop them. Across the road and again, unlike some old waja, like some gutter rats, and we just ignored them and went about doing our business, doing the people's business. But now is a problem. Now is a problem. So, communication workers under some pressure. Pararat saying we never promised only no 10%. Roxo with that. OG is saying, but we had discussions with the management of TSTT. Discussions were had and 10% was raised and so on. I have all of the receipts. If Mr. Pararat wants to meet me to see the receipts, no problem. She's quoting things that were said in the meeting by members of TSTT management and so on to support the claim of the 10%. But it seems 10 wasn't for everybody. It was for everybody prior to April 28th. But after April 28th, now it's not for everybody. Not for everybody. Don't get the votes already. So hold all your tail. But I keep asking, what is going to happen in the next negotiation period? What's going to happen there? Because when you set a precedent of 10, what are they going to come with in, what is the next period? 22 to 25? Or is it 19 to 21 or whatever it is? Or whichever one it is. Where is starting at? We drop in from 10 back down to 5 to 4. So it's okay then? Well, we get 10 before, so we can settle for 4 now. Or we'll take 5. Then we'll start at 10. You can bet your bottom dollar about that. So it seems to counter the anticipated abuse and the hurling of profanities that the Prime Minister anticipated she would get on the 31st of this month at the parade. We saw a memo going around that was sent out to all UNC constituency executives to mobilize their supporters to come down to the Queen's Park Savannah on the 31st to celebrate the country's 64th year of independence by coming and spectating and viewing the annual parade, which last year you had people like the Doglaya, that bald-headed lout, that consummate rumcock, and others, David Nackett and others, who labeled the parade as being a PNM event, right? There's a PNM fete. But this year is not a PNM fete. So apparently they intend to bring the UNC supporters to drown out the boos that they expect their leader will get when she shows up on the morning of the 31st, right? Hence the reason they move it from one point and to the other side of the savannah, a little smaller space, but expect maxi loads of yellow-clad UNC supporters But they being encouraged as well to wear red, white, and black, to differentiate. But yeah, come down. Now, why would you want to do something like that? UNC supporters are not accustomed because they too consider the parade to be a P&M thing, right? And you see Dr. Rowley show up in the Mercedes Benz that you used to see once or twice for the year, that now you see every day because it has become the main vehicle of the Prime Minister, right? And as soon as you jump out the car, rousing applause and cheers and so on. Prasad Bisesa anticipates that, as she said, you will have another opportunity to boo and hurl abuses and profanities at me. So it seems she will be showing up on the 31st. And hopefully there will be sufficient UNC supporters there to drown out the boos and the abuses that she expects to get when she alights her vehicle. But you invite in clashes because if you're saying this has been traditionally a P&M thing, and you bring in UNC supporters to mingle in the thing, why would you want to do that? Then to say what? When a clash start because somebody felt a bottle or a fight start and then Bacchanal in the place to say, you see, tell all the P&M people, they like Bacchanal. They're so rowdy, it's only violence, that's all they know. Why the hell would you bring your UNCs or call them out? What do you think will happen? You know there will be those who will put on their UNC jerseys to come down there just to aggravate people and to cause and to start something. You're also concerned about security, law and order, but trying to create a situation that could cause a ruckus. In the full view of diplomats, foreign diplomats, because they will invite the diplomatic corps. They are among the guests who would most likely be there. Why would you want to do that? But that making sense to them. Because how else could the Prime Minister avoid the boos? So you willing to risk violence just for the sake of hoping that your people will come and drown out when they say, they start to make noise and pretend as if people so in love with the Prime Minister and she's so popular. Just don't come. Stay home, make up an excuse, say 2 canopies, fall on your big toe again, like you did back in 2012 or something. So some things you ain't feeling well, you come down with the flu. Nobody gonna miss you. But you're going to show up there, and now you're inviting all of your supporters. Come down in your numbers. Come out and support. For 10 years, you all were in opposition. Right? Not one of them in opposition from Prasad Bisesa come down. It was only, I think, in the last year, 2024, Wade Mark, this one, the one that speaks with the drawl. He was Kuva North, I think it was, or Kuva South. Kuva South, yeah. Rudy Indarsingh, Wade Mark, and I think it was David Lee. I think it was the 3 of them who showed up in 2024. But the rest of them, from 2016 onward, refused to attend. They weren't concerned then. They were not patriotic then. They weren't encouraging their supporters then to come down and let us celebrate the country's independence. They didn't care to show up themselves, but all of a sudden in 2026, they've developed a sense of patriotism and want the supporters to come out in large numbers to celebrate because everybody fully does. And we don't know why you're all doing it. And the supporters will take the chain up and come here. Yeah. Take the chain up and come. Right? As if the traffic isn't going to be bad enough with this new location as to where they put in the parade. So we see they're paving the next section of the Savannah. They put up 2 Bailey Bridge. They bring in these concrete barriers and all kind of thing. A whole big setup. People are asking how much money spent on that. Right? So they try to fool you. They bring in the army, some equipment from the army to come and do things. Right? All of this for just a couple hours. How much money that costed? They don't have money to help poor people, right? They don't have money to maintain Milat, MyPath. How many of these young men who were in Milat and so on we see would have received very good results in the recently concluded CAPE and CSEC exams? Kudos to them and kudos to that program, which is now shut down indefinitely, right? But thank goodness some of these young men were able to make use of what was offered to them, the education and the training that was offered to them at the time that they were there, and they were able to complete their exams, and now they have a full certificate in terms of subjects. And while many of them, I'm sure, would have been hoping that they could get into the police service or the army or the Coast Guard or something, at least they have a full certificate now that they could get some sort of employment. Now that the program is indefinitely suspended. But to those who probably had one more year to go before they could experience that, I don't know what they are going to do, because there's been no alternative offered by this government for these young men who, I don't know how many of you would have seen that video the day or a couple of days after it was announced that they would be shutting down the program. And you saw these young men walking from the facility to the corner of the Churchill Roosevelt Highway with their backpack on their back. They're dressed in their uniform and so on, and who carrying the Jahaji bundle to get transportation to go to wherever they live. And I saw that video, and it was really, really sad. Really sad. Just somebody happened to be driving down Mausika Road at the time, and they saw this group of young men with their bags on their back and so on, and whatever other belongings they had, making their way away from the facility to get transport to go back to whatever situation or circumstance they would have been running from. Unfortunately. Right? But where is the hue and cry? I'm sure many of them probably were hoping to march in probably some detachment or something on the 31st. None of that. Right? I saw several videos of people who are complaining and protesting about what is taking place on that side of the savannah. And they said, well, it's just for one day, it's just temporary. After the parade, all of these things will be removed. Concerns are being raised about the oil sand or whatever it is that is being put down there, because there's a natural aquifer under the savannah, and whether or not there will be leaching where some of these chemicals can actually get into that water. No concern for them about that. That's okay. Because they fully done supporters who for 10 years complained, and yeah. Some of them are the first time they go in, come into Port of Spain. Where? The savannah, where that is. Some of them never come to Port of Spain in their whole life. 60, 70 years. The only time they ever saw the parade was on TV. But they come into Port of Spain now at the behest of their political leader, because she needs a chorus to drown out the booze and the abuse that she anticipates that she's going to get. But you said you're giving them another opportunity. Grow up here. All right? Just show up, take your boo and leave. You said when UNC wins, everybody wins. So you're not supposed to be getting booed. Nobody's supposed to be cursing you on that day. They should be singing your praises. When you step out the car, it should just be bouquets of flowers coming at you. Why would anybody want to curse the Prime Minister and hurl abuses at the Prime Minister when everybody's supposed to be winning after 15 months in office? Right. But we will see the whole clip. Once Prasad Bisasa there, the whole cabinet there. The whole cabinet. Many of them for the first time will be attending this event. Because they had no sense of patriotism between 2016 to 2025, April 28th. But in the last 15 months, their sense of patriotism has blossomed. And back when they had the Susu was the craze, and the band waiting for his hand to blossom. Their sense of patriotism has blossomed. Okay. Meanwhile, none of us in the opposition have yet received any invitation to this event. Today is the 23rd? 1 week or so to go. No invitation. All right. Not that we looking for one or need one. Because last year we got an invitation from the president, and it had to be rescinded because there was no parade. But they probably figure we have nothing to do. So I don't know. Let me leave that there. Let me leave that there. So let me get this here. Right. So there is an interesting article so yesterday we had 2 double murders. Was it yesterday? a day before. 2 double murders. Two in Arima and 2 in Faizabad. But if you listen to the government, and their supporters, there's nothing to see here. 4 murders, no biggie. What's the issue? At least the murder rate is less than what it was under the PNM, so be okay with that. Once it's under 624, we good. 600, we could work with that. Once it's less than 620, we taking 623 and all. Once it's under 624 and the PNM maintains that record for the highest murder rate, we good. Not a problem, no issues. That's not a topic of discussion. No, nobody care about that. But they had the solution to crime, right? How many double and triple and quadruple murders have we seen in this country over the last 15 months, and more so over the last 7 months? How many? Right? In the space of 7 months. But that's not cause for concern. We're under a state of emergency, Under a state of emergency, and we haven't record numbers of double and triple and quadruple murders, some of them involving young children. So imagine when the state of emergency comes to an end in less than a month, and all of the usual suspects that they've been detained, that they have detained for the last how many months, under PDOs, which will come to an end on September 17th, and they have no choice unless they find evidence to charge these persons. And even if they are charged, they're still entitled to apply for bail. But unless and until that happens, come the 17th of September, all of these 500 plus usual suspects that they rounds up, so they issued PDOs for another 13, I think it was yesterday. What sense that making? So you hold them for what, 2-3 weeks? And then you have to let them go. Because if you had evidence to charge them with a crime, you would have done so instead of a PDO. Poor Alexander, all them PDOs he signed in, he probably got arthritis, struggling every morning to open his hand. When he sign in PDO, yeah, your fingers and them, your knuckles lock from signing PDO. But when you release those usual suspects and they come out with a vengeance after you had them inside for so long and they had to endure those conditions, some of them for the full 6 months, you will know where barley grows. Let's see if those 30 police posts will assist in containing the crime. Okay? Because outside of that, they have nothing else. It took them 13 months to come up with that idea. So if it took 13 months, according to Xander, for them to develop that plan, it means they have nothing else. No other plan to deal with the overarching issue of crime. No such plans. Okay. Well, not that we wishing anything bad. This stuff already, I'll say PNM. We're just telling it like it is. Revealing the real. Okay? 17th of September, SOE comes to an end. We have indicated we will not support another 6-month extension. So it's either they bring it to an end, which they have no choice to do, but to do, and probably wait a month and then bring back another one. It's not beyond the realm of possibility, because all of a sudden, there's bomb threats all over the place. All over. Record levels, bomb threats. Pretext for an extension, because they have nothing else. Commissioner of Police went on a 5-day, well, let me not say it's a joke. The man said he had to leave the country on an emergency leave because he had gotten some information or whatever with respect to criminal activity or so, and he had to leave. But he briefed his boss, the Minister of National Security. But procedure was not followed in terms of the appointment of an acting commissioner. They didn't see the need for that. Now, when the Prime Minister leaves the country, an acting Prime Minister is appointed. Under Keith Rowley, it was Imbert for almost 9 years, and then thereafter Stuart Young. Under this Prime Minister, they get Julian John. All right? They see the necessity for that. But this commissioner jump out 5 days. Nobody knew. The media didn't know. And it is only because information came to the PNM and Marvin Gonzalez raised it at the press conference following the last General Council that the country learned that the commissioner was absent and that there was an illegal acting appointment. right? The process that was used to appoint Mr. What is his name again? Well, they say, well, I don't know if he was acting or whatever. But that was illegal. But that is settled law. Because I don't know if you all recall, in 2021, when Gary Griffith's substantive contract expired, right? The 3 years was up sometime around August of 2021. The Police Service Commission appointed him to act as commissioner simply by giving him an appointment letter. They did not follow what was prescribed in the Constitution, which is they were supposed to populate a merit list, forward the merit list to the president. The president would then have this merit list forwarded to the parliament, and therefore it would have been debated. The names on the list would have been debated and so on. That did not happen. As a result of that, one Anand Ramlogan, using the then UNC lackey, Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, who every time they wanted to bring an action against the state, you would use him, right? Sued, well, not sued. They brought a court matter or challenged the appointment of Gary Griffith to act as Commissioner of Police based on the process or the procedure that was used by the Police Service Commission to appoint him. And Justice Nadia Kangaloo was appointed the judge to hear the matter. And Mr. Ramlogan would have objected to that and called on Justice Kangaloo to recuse herself on the basis that he had several matters before Justice Kangaloo, some of which had been heard and completed. And he said that Justice Kangaloo, several of these court matters, the judgment was still outstanding. In some cases, ranging from 6 months to as much as 2 years. And he called on Justice Kangaloo in those circumstances to recuse herself, and she refused to. And she heard the matter that was brought by Mr. Ramlogan challenging Gary Griffith's appointment to act as Commissioner of Police on the basis that the procedure and process used by the PSC to appoint him was illegal, ultra vires the Constitution. Justice Kangaloo heard the matter and found in favor of Mr. Ramlogan, declaring that Mr. Griffith's appointment was null and void and of no effect because the PSC did not follow the law in that appointment. And he was removed, and one McDonald Jacob was appointed to act as Commissioner of Police. So Justice Kangaloo declared that that was an illegal act. But here we have another scenario where the same thing happened, process was not followed, and the excuse they're using is, well, the parliament was on recess, so we could not. Rubbish. In the same way, last year while we were on, parliament was on recess, and they called us back on the 28th of July to debate the extension of the state of emergency. It's the same way they could have called a special sitting, an extraordinary sitting. It would have just taken us about half an hour, 1 hour at best, just to deal with that one thing, because it's just an appointment, acting appointment for 5 days. We would have had no objection to it. We come, sit down, right. Xander, read out the name, right? Say a few things about the person, okay, and indicate that they support it. On our side, Marvin would get up, say, okay, right, ting. Well, this individual has acted before. We have a problem with that. We know this is simply procedural. Okay, we don't plan to stay here for too long, to interrupt our vacation to deal with this. So, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it, right. This house is now adjourned to a date to be fixed. And we could have completed that in an hour. They didn't see it fit to do that. So, and I say, no big deal. Commissioner say, well, that's not my problem, you know. That's above my pay grade. I did what I was supposed to do. I let the Minister of Homeland Security know this is the situation. I had a bus out, right? And he said, like, go ahead now. So anything after that, that's not my problem. I have no authority to appoint anybody to act. That is not within my scope of works. That is not in my job description. So whoever dropped the ball, deal with them. Don't tell, I don't want to hear nothing about that. Leave me be. Yeah. And it's no big deal. In fact, I recall sometime last year, I don't know what was the circumstances, but it seems that Wayne Meister had acted for something. Don't know what it was. And perhaps during that acting stint, he would have, I don't know if it is he signed some document, what, I don't know. All I know is that there was a matter that was placed on the order paper for us to deal with respect to Wayne Meister and some acting or whatever it is, and when they needed us to ratify whatever was done back then, because again, the acting appointment may not have been in line with what the Constitution prescribes. It appeared on the order paper. It has been almost a year now. That matter was raised on the order paper. It has never come back to the Parliament for us to deal with it. Never. So they probably figure we forget, and they said, well, whatever, that done already. Let that there. And this is to show you how lawless this government is. You feel if it was the PNM in power and this had happened, they would have allowed it? Meanwhile, the commissioner is tight-lipped on why he went, where he went, what he went for, how much it cost. Fingers on his lip, his mouth up as if he have nothing to say. The Prime Minister say, well, right, the commissioner followed procedure, right. We are not going to disclose to you either where he went, why he went, what he went for. They're not all your business. 2016 to 2025, transparency and disclosure was the order of the day. They want to know. We want to know. No, they don't want to know. No, you don't need to know. No, you don't need to know that, man. Just go about your business. All is well. And the supporters who wanted to know everything. When Rowley traveled, they want to know where he went, how much it cost, who he carried with him, what he talked about, who he met with. Same thing with Stuart Young, everything. No, they couldn't care less. No, we're not interested. Transparency and disclosure and all of these things be down. Not interested anymore. All right. Another interesting development last week, we saw where the Facebook page UNC Cabal, well, now going by the name the Real Cabby or the Real Cabal, because apparently UNC supporters were able to get Facebook to ban the UNC Cabal page because they don't like the truth. They don't like they don't like when Cabby revealing the real. They can't take it. They don't know who Cabby is and how he getting all this information. And he always spot on, so they can't take that. So, you know, they are masters at getting pages banned. So it was, I think he got a 30-day ban or something like that. So we saw where, according to what was published, let me get this here. Right. We saw a couple of persons appointed by this government to state enterprises had to be relieved of their positions. Why? Because apparently they had gotten involved in some wrong stand-ups. Let me see here. Let me get this here. Where is it? Right. Let me see. So it says here, Shalini was appointed to Plibdeco. Shalini Dani Prasad. Cabby would like to personally congratulate Shalini on her appointment at Plibdeco as Manager of Business Land Development. We would also like to commend the UNC government for not discriminating against Ms. Dani Prasad, despite being charged on 10 fraud offenses. One charge includes that Dani Prasad allegedly submitted forged WASA invoices, including one dated October 5th, 2022, which falsely indicated an outstanding balance of $108. Investigations revealed that the actual invoice issued on December 5th, 2021 showed a balance of $9,857.50. Right? So it is alleged here. Well, I guess it's not alleged anymore because this story was carried in what was then the Newsday, that Ms. Dani Prasad was charged with 10 fraud offenses, but yet still she was able to land a job as Manager of Business Land Development at Plibdeco. Following publication of this story by the Real Cabby, we since learned that the young lady's appointment was revoked. Let me get this here. Right. Breaking news. This was 2 days ago. Cabby has just learned that the newly appointed manager at Plibdeco, Shalini Dani Prasad, had her appointment revoked yesterday. One source revealed that management discovered her track record after reading about it on social media. So they didn't do a background checks. I guess they didn't pick up the phone and call the references, you know, that people normally include on their resume. But when you get the work because your friend is a minister or whoever, you go through that. Because just hire this girl there for me. Right. What position will you have available? All right. She did that work. Handle that there for me. The investigation found that Shalini also has other matters pending before the court and knowingly misled the interview panel. We commend Plibdeco's management for taking action against her wrongdoing and hope other companies follow suit. So it's 2 days ago, right? But it didn't end there. No. I see Kabi posted another one. 1 day later, another one to the list. Congratulations to Neil Ramsing on his appointment as CEO of the Agricultural Development Bank. I hope he told the panel the reason why he was fired from a popular insurance company. Following that, another congratulations to Neil Ramsing. Neil is also on the board of PSAEL, the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited. Did Neil ever tell the chairman that he once allegedly forged the signature of one of his former clients and withdrew $55,000 from their account? Another one of his shady transactions to be revealed tomorrow. 2 board appointments under the same minister. I wonder who that minister is, but who is the minister with land, responsible for land? Who is the minister responsible? Anyway. Another one. Kabi just got word that Ramsing is also a pundit. So we wait to see if any investigations will be carried out into that to determine the veracity of same and what would be done, if anything, to address the matter of Mr. Ramsing. All right? Interesting. They really know how to pick them. So we are not surprised when we see in today's Guardian, Heritage chairman resigns amid allegations of corruption in company's contract allocations. Heritage chairman resigns amid allegations of corruption in company's contract allocations. Heritage Petroleum chairman Kurt Ramlal has resigned after being asked to step down last week, according to senior government sources. Guardian Media understands that Ramlal's departure followed allegations of impropriety involving the allocation of Heritage Petroleum contracts. Ramlal, a longtime supporter of the UNC, was among the first appointments made by the party after it assumed office and had served as chairman of Heritage since July 2025. Interesting. Among the first. What's so special about him? At least 2 senior government officials confirmed Ramlal's departure yesterday, but declined to disclose the circumstances with which he was asked to resign. So it wasn't voluntary; he was asked to. They probably figure Kabi will get the before Kabi get the S, right, and bust the mark. All they deal with that, eh? Right? Because Kabi gets things in his mailbox, so we need to deal with that quick. While details surrounding his exit from the state-run company remain limited, Ramlal is the second UNC-appointed chairman in the energy sector to leave office this year. In May, attorney Nairi Alfonso resigned as chairman of Paria Fuel Trading Company with immediate effect. She gave him notice, hey, it is my last day. Okay. Just so? Yes. As chairman of state enterprises are appointed by the government, both Ramlal and Alfonso reported to the energy minister, Dr. Rudal Munilal, of EMBD fame, who is alleged to have, based on transcripts of WhatsApp or text messages that were sent from his phone, allegedly. And again, I'm reading here from the court transcripts that I read for you all, right? So this is what was tendered into evidence in the court matter, where it is alleged that text messages were sent from Mr. Munilal to the then CEO of EMBD, instructing him to prepare $1 million checks for certain contractors, and so that he, the minister, would personally take these checks to the contractors. Unheard of. But then again, all right, we will deal with that on another day. During the UNC's previous term in office between 2010 to 15, Ramlal served as the CEO of UDCOT under current Works and Transport Minister Jolene John. Efforts to reach Ramlal for comment were unsuccessful yesterday. Energy Minister Munilal also did not respond to phone calls. As of yesterday, however, Heritage had not issued an official statement on Ramlal's resignation. In fact, he was still listed as chairman on the company's website. Goes on to say, when announcing Ramlal's appointment last year, Munilal said he and his board had been tasked with reversing declining onshore oil production. The remaining members of the board are Sherry-Ann Chunu Lalsi, Lincoln Dukran, Richard Hansard, Khalid Hassan Ali, Joseph Laurent, Anthony Paul, Kamini Ramraj, and Ronnie Suku. Heritage appointed Kerry Rampersad as CEO following the resignation of former CEO Eric Keskula in September of 2025. So, allegations of corruption in the company's contract allocations. But again, when Stuart Young was asking questions about these things, they shoot him down. Oh, he can't deal with the fact that he's no longer the Minister of Energy, right? And that he's now just an ordinary MP. And he feel he know, but he don't know. Where you get the information from all kind of things they say about Stuart. And now, allegations of corruption in the company's contract allocations. The farm out. These are the same people who talk about AV drilling and fake oil. Questions were being asked. These I think it was in the budget debate. Stuart would have asked questions about some of these contracts that are being given out. You know, usual. You want like a wajang and so on and whatnot. Yeah. But it was largely ignored. The media didn't really follow up on it. Now this has become a front page story. But where is the advocacy for details, right? As the UNC beat AV drilling and fake oil like a rented mule, where are the PNM? Where is the PNM equivalent of that? To beat this like a rented mule. You can't expect Stuart Young alone to deal with this. You can't expect 2 or 3 of us from the 13 to be dealing with this alone. This is what we need. You all need to follow take a page from the UNC playbook. Some of the supporters don't know beef from bullfoot when it comes to matters such as these. But they know how to push it, you know. Oh, yes. Surprised some of them may come on here as yet to come to talk about Brian Manning and what's going on in San Fernando East. That's all they're concerned about. But corruption, 15 months in. The PNM corrupt. Since 1956, PNM corrupt. 70 years. 100 years of PNM corruption. The PNM only around for 70. Somebody need to tell Keza that. 1956 to 2026 is 70 years. We went around in 1939 and all them kind of thing. Okay? Corruption. No talk about this. You feel like talking about this in UNC Facebook profiles, all the lock profiles? They're probably talking about it in their WhatsApp group and so on, you know. But they say, yeah, but the PNM do worse, and the PNM do worse. Ask them, what is the worst that the PNM did now? 10 years under PNM. You never hear about anything like this happening at Heritage. 10 years. They're in office 15 months. And for them to ask him to resign tells you how bad it must be. Because they have no shame. If it's one thing the UNC does very well is defend corruption. So it tells you that they can't defend this. So they tell me, hey, enough is enough. We're still asking questions with respect to why the Joseph guy that they had appointed after they fired Mr. Halliday as the CEO of WASA, and they bring in this Joseph fella. Why they bust his throat? He was supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. Why they bust his throat? We want to know. Because we're hearing allegations of something similar. But anyway, you get the government that you vote for. You all knew, you know. You say a leopard can't change the spots, but hey, some people say, nah, get them a chance. There's a different brand of leopard. Really? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Yeah. Thief on a whole different level this time. Still a thief. We're thieving on a different level. We learned. We refined it. 2010 to 2015, and we had 10 years in opposition to look at what we did wrong with the thievery and how we could fix it. How we could sharpen it. So when we come back in 2025, we do it better this time. When we hear the mark about the bus, you know what to do? Pretend as if it is we dealing with corruption. I ain't hear nobody talking about, you know, they love to say every time a minister dig up and they say the fine thing on a former PNM minister. We're sending it to the Attorney General. We're forwarding everything to the Attorney General because, you know, the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau falls under the Office of the Attorney General. It used to be, the PNM removed it from under the Office of the Attorney General and put it under the TTPS, under the remit of the Commissioner. As soon as the UNC come back into office last year, they removed it from under the Office of the Commissioner and put it back under the Attorney General. So they report into he, right? So every time they find something and some piece of corruption they claim, what do? We forwarded the information to the Attorney General. So what? So that he could forward it to the ACIB for them to initiate an investigation. You hear that, Winston? Bachelor? Okay, when they come in and say, well, the police, the police and not under the government, and government can't tell the police what to do. Well, the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau, that is responsible for these high-profile investigations, falls under the Office of the Attorney General. Your government that you support did that. Okay? So when you feel they can't tell the police what to do, check yourself. But I ain't hear anybody say they're sending this information to the Attorney General for him to send it to the ACIB for an investigation. So you just tell the man here what, now resign, and that's the end of that. Yeah. Just walk. Just go. Don't worry about anything else. Nah, this ends here. Don't worry about no lockup, no investigation. We just ending this here. And we, being the 9-day wonder that we are, right. Workers raise red flag at FCB. Whistleblower report claims bank struggling after departures of 6 executives in a year, but chairman says positions are being filled soon. So in the interim, what is happening, Mr. Chairman? What is happening in the interim? But all of these senior executive positions remain vacant. And why? Because nobody don't want to work. People saying that toxic environment, it ain't worth my sanity. It is not worth my mental health. I'll keep all the work. Let me stay where I am. State-owned FCB has lost 6 senior officers in the past year. Not the past 10 years. Just let it fully done know that now. In the past year. All right? PNM has been out of office for more than a year. So it ain't no way you all can nail that on us. All of these people who left, when the PNM demitted office, they were there. They were not concerned about their jobs. They were doing their jobs to the best of their ability. They had no issues whatsoever. They did not foresee themselves tendering their resignations. They were happy where they were. As soon as this toxic government come into office, the report attributes the situation to the board of directors' alleged conduct and claims that the resulting vacancies have failed to attract external candidates, while qualified internal employees have not been promoted to fill the gaps. The allegations are contained in a 7-page whistleblower report submitted to the bank's board of directors in August 2026 under the institution's whistleblower policy number 284. Of course, the fully done will say the whistleblower is PNM. The Sunday Guardian obtained a copy of the report, but board chairman Shankar Bidesi yesterday said the bank hopes to fill the vacancy soon. Hopes. Hope. We hoping. According to the document, a protected disclosure submitted to the board in March identified specific governance failures, warned that they were worsening, and recommended 6 corrective actions. However, the report alleges that no meaningful accountability measures have been followed since then. 5 months later, the latest report states that the institution is materially weaker than it was in March, and that conditions have deteriorated beyond what the earlier disclosure anticipated. So the earlier disclosure said, well, okay, there's a situation here, things bad. 5 months later, it's worse than we thought it would have been. 3 of the group's most senior officers, including its CEO, have since left. First Citizens, a publicly traded company that is 60% owned by the state, you, the taxpayer, has seen a string of senior departures over the past year. Chief Risk Officer Gerard Morton resigned in January. In March, Neelam Munilal Kisoon, Deputy CEO Operations and Administration, left. A departure, the report linked to the pattern of targeted whistleblowing submissions the March disclosure documented. Donna Miller resigned as Chief Internal Auditor in April. Her position was filled 2 days later by Julia Maria Daniel, making it the only senior vacancy not left open for an extended period. Nisha Ramkilawan, who had been serving as acting chief risk officer, left the company on July 7th. Shortly thereafter, the chief financial officer proceeded on early retirement, which the report described as functionally equivalent to a resignation. July 31st, Group CEO Jason Julian resigned. His resignation takes effect on August 31st, 2026. While Julian publicly stated that he was not forced out, when questioned by Guardian Media on the reason for his departure, the report claims that that characterization is not shared inside the institution. So staff not buying that bollocks. Staff is of the view that he was forced out. Clearly staff knows something. I told you all, I spoke to somebody there who is a mid-level manager and who told me that. It's terrible. Julian's resignation followed the retirement of former CEO Karen Darbesi in October of 2025. The report also highlighted a series of leadership vacancies, and it noted that the Deputy CEO revenue generation position remained vacant from December 2025 up until July 2026, when Sana Ragbir was appointed. The report stated that Ragbir subsequently took and returned from a period of leave. So you now get promoted or appointed and you take leave? Okay. Her promotion left the position of General Manager, Retail and Commercial Banking vacant, with no successor yet confirmed. The role of Head of Retail Banking, one level below the vacant GM position, also remains unfilled, and recruitment has reportedly not been approved. 6 of the institution's most senior positions have turned over in 12 months under a single board. What is the common denominator? Only one of those vacancies, the Chief Internal Auditor, was filled without a sustained gap. The remainder, including the group's most senior executive office, either remain unresolved, resolved, or have turned over more than once. Failed recruitment exercises. The report claimed recruitment exercises for the position of Chief Financial Officer, Chief Risk Officer, and Deputy CEO Operations and Admin have all had to be restarted after failing to attract suitable candidates. In each case, qualified internal successors were available and were not promoted into the roles. This is not one failed search. It is 3 simultaneous failed searches across the institution's most senior control and executive position at an institution that has spent 5 months as the subject of public reporting on its own governance dysfunction. The report further alleges that junior staff lacking the necessary seniority, authority, and training have been required to fill critical gaps. And it also raised questions and concerns about employee treatment, claiming that a performance review overseen by an individual whose work it was intended to independently assess resulted in compensation downgrades for 28 managers. Compensation downgrades for 28 managers? Well, they're cutting people pay? Cutting people pay. What do you think gonna happen there? They say, yeah, that's okay, I can take my pay cut. Thank you so much for the pay cut. Affecting people's living, people's lives. You feel they care? While they are downgrading the salaries of 28 managers, people ask it. And the government say when they were in opposition, they opposed the pay raise. They didn't want it. It was obscene. Rowley too greedy. The PNM too greedy. Now is not a good time. Why they didn't come and downgrade your salaries when you all came in? Kamala said, me what 87,000, but then she come in and said, well, I don't have a choice. There was a recommendation of the Salaries Review Commission. I don't have no say. I say, well, hey, money to make. Yeah, what? Everybody getting a work. Everybody getting a work. You are minister. You are minister in the ministry of. You are parliamentary secretary. Everybody. You getting a work. Everybody getting a work. I had the biggest cabinet in 2010 to 15, and I'm coming back and I'm doing it again. This ministry, I need 3 ministers. David Lee, Philip Alexander, and the Rumcock. Asking, what does David Lee do? What does the Rumcock do? Other than sit down all day on Facebook and cussing PNM and talking about PNM. He talking more about the PNM than PNM people. But collecting big salary at any month to do that. Philip Alexander up and down the place. Instead of study to mind a child and pay him but his money. You go in a HTC site everywhere, you want to put out people and you shutting down thing and you are the big bad wolf. All of a sudden, he has become the de facto spokesman for the government. He have a comment on everything. Everything happening with the government, yeah. Bet your bottom dollar the newspaper going and publish a statement from Alexander. Why are they running to he? He is the PRO for the government? Okay. Everything he has a comment on, you know. Right. No comment on this though. Troubling issues first raised in March. The disclosures build on a previous 10-page whistleblower report submitted in March that outlined concerns about governance practices and the conduct of Deputy Chairman Dr. Sterling Frost. That earlier disclosure recommended that Frost be recused from matters involving the HR and Remuneration Committee. Where the minister of, anyway, Corporation Soul has nothing to say on that. Right? Tax coup. You have bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish to fry. So he has nothing to say on that. Meanwhile, the Minister of Planning has told the country 2027 is going to be another difficult year. Difficult year. So all them CPAP workers who were hoping you're going to get back with work. Yeah, 2027 is the year. Money going and run. You see all these gas projects, money going and run like that. Yeah. Nope. Swarat Singh says it's going to be another difficult year. He says 95 cents of every dollar that the government is going to get is already committed. Yes. So all the money that we expect to get, that we anticipating and looking forward to, 95 cents of every one of those dollars is already committed. It already has its owner. So we cannot divert it anywhere else. All we have left is 5 cents on each dollar to do things. And where does 95 cents go in? Wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies, and paying debt. So we can't afford to do this, and we can't afford to do that because the government don't have money. But they tell all you brighter days ahead. And then 1 month later, brighter days are here. But now the Minister of Planning coming to tell all you next year going to be another hard year. But the brighter days are here. How the hell next year going to be another hard year? These people stand up in front of the Red House to take picture. And in unison, brighter days are here. We take a second take. Brighter days are here. And now you're coming to tell the country, next year going to be another hard year? Really? Okay. All right, Tango might give another 50 cents, a 50 cents drop in the price of maybe premium this time. A diesel. Because the diesel and premium user, you all didn't get anything last year. So this year you might give a little 50 cents. Right? But they boasted NGC, $3-something billion in profit. Best in over a decade. And they want to take credit for that. Oh, cost cutting and so on. And we were able to streamline our expenses and reduce expenditure. Well, when it is that you stop sponsoring steel bands and so on, and the level of sponsorship that the NGC used to engage in, what do you expect? What do you expect? So several bands, steel bands that used to get a little some to assist them, or they drop them like a hot potato. What do you expect? This is the same company between 2010 to 2015 was the milk cow. As Joanne Ogier of CW reminded us, she said TSTT has now become the NGC of 2010 to 2015. Right? TSTT, everything that needs to be sponsored and paid for is TSTT. She said they hired how many apprentices during the August vacation and they getting paid? Where the money coming from for that? Who paid for that? How were they chosen? Last time we heard the claim that they sent an email to the MPs, to all MPs. 13 of us on the opposition bench got no such email, no request for any names or whatever. So we continue to ask, what is the process and the procedure by which these apprentices were selected? What was the application process, if one existed? We still don't know. We got no answer. But 2010 to 2015, don't forget, NGC purchasing all-inclusive Fed tickets. They are the South Cancer Fed, over $1.1 million in tickets purchased to give out to friends, family, and financiers. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. So while Mr. Man boasting about NGC and how much profits they make and so on, and Mr. Ramdeen, who should be behind bars, along with Mr. Ram Logan, want to take credit for that. When Stuart come out and say, hey, hold on your horses, not so fast. Not so fast. They say, ah, boy, Stuart, you are gained by? You are gained by, Stuart? How much more you want? We already give you credit for discovering Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? You discovered Trinidad and Tobago even before the Caribs and the Arawaks came here. Yeah, you again? But let me just read something here quickly from Mariano Brown in today's Guardian. Another difficult year. So I'm guessing he's commenting here on the words of the Minister of Planning. Most people understand that the energy sector is key to improving Trinidad and Tobago's economic fortunes in the short run. But the closure of Train 1, Atlantic LNG plants now have a nameplate capacity of 11.5 million metric tons per year. To operate at this level, the plants require daily natural gas supply of between 1.6 and 1.9 billion cubic feet. Operating at full capacity, the petrochemical plants need a daily natural gas supply of 1.1 billion cubic feet, while power generation electricity needs approximately 300 million cubic feet. For the first 3 months of 2026, domestic natural gas production in TNT averaged 2.4 billion cubic feet, meaning there is not enough gas to keep all the plants open, which explains why plants in Point Lisas are closed. The Atlantic LNG facility has historically operated well below its maximum capacity for most of the last 7 years. The strategic problem is gas supply, not a lack of plant infrastructure. Hence the importance of the Manatee project, additional production from new wells and Venezuela gas. I would remind the Folidons, when the PNM saw merit in mothballing Train 1, right? Even though there wasn't sufficient gas then, let's say here what, we have a 10% shareholding in Train 1, so let's mothball, despite what the other shareholders, the majority shareholders are saying. Because you never know when gas will come. We anticipate we may be able to get gas in the future, and we could. The UNC took them to task, well, let's spend about $200 million to thing, and all blah, for that mothball the thing, and the advice from the majority shareholders was to decommission and all of that, and all this money spent, and tell us all the other things that money could have spent on. Now they're beating the chest and bumping the gum about how much gas coming here. How Train 1 looking? Not Train 1 looking. I just say it. 10% shareholding. While prices remain high for petrochemicals and LNG, the conundrum is that the tax revenues cannot grow if output volumes do not grow. NGC's improved financial results. Listen to this, this is for the benefit of the Folidons. NGC's improved financial results are primarily due to higher international prices, not efficiency improvements or increased gas supply. So you see that BS that Ramdeen trying to spin and come and tell you, well, it was because of operational efficiencies and we were able to cut costs here and we did this and we did that. So you were appointed and the board was appointed in July of 2025. All right? You would have taken a couple of weeks to learn the lay of the land. So it means that from August to December, and the financial year is the end of December, you want to convince the population that you all did this magic in 5 months to turn around the company, because according to him, the company was broken before this new board came in. $1.64 billion in profit before this board came in, but he said the company was broken. And they fixed it. Well, if a broken company can make that kind of profit, well, I tell you, I wouldn't mind owning a broken company like that. Send it for me now. I'd be happy to take ownership of a broken company that's making $1.64 billion in profit. He goes on to say, the difficulty is that there is a long lead time between exploration, discovery, and production. Whilst Manatee is expected to produce approximately 600 million cubic feet of gas per day, it will take time to ramp up production to that level. Manatee is not a solution to the gas shortage. It only ameliorates the position. This explains the planning minister's comment that 2027 will be another difficult year, a tacit implication that 2026 has also been difficult. Similarly, increased gas production does not automatically give the downstream more gas. The major gas producers, Shell and BP, are 90% owners of Atlantic and prioritize supplying Atlantic LNG. 90%, a good thing. PNM restructured that holding so that we have 10% now in Atlantic LNG rather than just 10% in one trade. It goes on to say, despite its name, NGC can only supply gas to the downstream petrochemical sector in accordance with the natural gas it is contracted to buy from Shell and BP. Therefore, the upstreamers, BP and Shell, are in control. And we have been saying this. BP and Shell are in control. Right? Mr. Brown is saying this, respected economist. All I might say he's a whole PNM, we know. This is why one must be cautious in extolling the likely benefits that could accrue to TNT from Venezuelan gas. Monetization of the Loran phases 1 and 2 depends on BP and Shell's agreement with Venezuela, of which we have no idea what that agreement is. We have no idea what that agreement entails. And it seems if Olidon's not interested in knowing. But when the PNM was in office, every time Stuart Chung went to Venezuela to sign something, they want to know. Oh, they signed non-disclosure agreement, and is taxpayers' money they're using, and why it is we can't know. Those fully done on 91.1. Back then they were 91.9. Captain missed information and Professor. Anyway, they ain't talking about that anymore. This is why, right? So he goes on to say, TNT has an interest in the outcome, but was not represented at the discussions. Key point, not having the proverbial seat at the table severely limits the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago's ability to influence the outcome to suit the country's best interests. There is little choice but to wait and hope for the best outcome. The important point is that Manatee is principally a TNT gas supply project, whereas Loran Phase 2 is potentially a regional gas supply export project. The Manikin Coquina field is a BP-led consortium with NGC as a junior partner. The field is in early discovery evaluation phase. The question is, how quickly Shell or BP and its partners will turn these resources into deliverable gas, and whether TNT's infrastructure will be used as the monetization route. It is not clear how this will develop, and the additional complication is that gas in Venezuelan waters is strictly tied to U.S. foreign policy and Treasury Department rules, meaning that the U.S. sanctions hurdle is an ongoing complication that requires negotiation. The facts complicate the finance minister's options and delivery capacity. In his 2026 budget speech, he repeated the line, promises made, promises kept, many times. However, public sector union settlements remain unsettled. So I will stop there and just go back to this line. The question is how quickly Shell and BP or BP and its partners will turn these resources into deliverable gas, and whether TNT's infrastructure will be used as a monetization route. And this is a point I have been making all the time. That all the supporters of the other party, the yellow party, well, yes, Vice Stuart Chung didn't do this. And look, Kamala come in office, and in 15 months, she accomplished more in 1 year than Rowley and the PNM was able to do in 10. And all these gas deals are coming now, yes, and money going and flow and thing and all of that, and they're happy, and jobs. And Mr. Brown is raising the issue, whether TNT's infrastructure will be used as a monetization route. And so those of you who are regular listeners would have heard me say, if Delcy say, our gas is not to go to Atlantic LNG, we don't care if you all have shareholding there, find another way to process it. You feel BP and Shell going and say, oh gosh, no, we can't do that because we love Trinidad and Tobago. And we want the best for Trinidad and Tobago. When Delcy say, we have 200 trillion cubic feet of gas in the Mariscal Sucre field. Well, you want some of that? Yes, Madam President. Well, I hear why I tell Ole? Yes, Madam President. You think they care about us? Oh, hell no. Get rid of the middleman. If we send that gas to Atlantic LNG, Trinidad and Tobago, 10% shareholder, and the other eat our food in that. But if it is, we send it somewhere else. We cut out the middleman. That 10% that could probably work out tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. We keep it. They have no loyalties to us whatsoever. And this is the fundamental point that we have made. So every time they try to discredit Stuart and say it's Stuart thing, and he always taking credit, and we're waiting for every time something is announced, where are we waiting for the PNM to hold a press conference to take credit for that? Where's Stuart Young? Stuart Young 321. He come in to say the point Stuart has made, continues to make, and will continue to make is that when he was Minister of Energy and when the PNM was in power, Keith Rowley was Prime Minister, we had a seat at the negotiation table. Right? We had the respect, all the narco traffic, all the ones that want Maduro and all of that. We were at the negotiation table. We were talking profit sharing. We were talking production sharing. Now, we're not even in the negotiation room. We're not even sitting on the sidelines to overhear the conversation. Where are we sitting? We're sitting outside on the concrete bench, in the courtyard, in the hot sun, waiting for negotiations to finish for BP and Shell to come outside and tell us what was discussed. We are not even in. Why? Look how far we moved from a seat at the table to sitting in the courtyard in the hot sun. Right? Sitting in the courtyard in the hot sun. Sweating like a prostitute with a UTI. Yes. And whatever crumbs come our way, we decided to say thank you. Thank you, BP. Thank you, Shell. When it was the other way around, we had the negotiating table and BP and Shell sit down on the sidelines and they're listening. And they're waiting for Stuart to call on them to invite them to, well, say a few words now. Do you have anything you want to add? That's where we went from. So now, they're even asking us for anything. They're not even asking our opinion. They just, all relax. We don't really need all that. In fact, the only reason why Trinidad and Tobago name even call it is because we have 90% shareholding in Atlantic LNG. Not we, the country. This is BP and Shell speaking here and saying, well, yeah, because the plant is in Trinidad and Tobago, really. But if it wasn't there, you all wouldn't even be an afterthought. Right? It wouldn't even be an afterthought. So, pat down. When it comes to Manatee, well, okay, that's all you own. You all own that, so therefore, but you see the rest? That belongs to Venezuela? No discussion about that. We don't need Ole anymore. When Stuart was Minister of Energy, when the other administration was in power up north, and the only country that had a special OFAC license to deal with Venezuela was Trinidad and Tobago, and we needed to piggyback on that license to be able to get access to all of this natural gas that we've been trying to get on our own for years, and Venezuela just wasn't paying us any mind. And now Trinidad and Tobago has gotten this license and they're looking for partners. Yes, here we are. Stuarty, the first name basis. They only call him Stuarty. Hey, Stuarty, this conference, this energy conference in Dubai, you're going on. Stuarty, this energy conference in here, would you be there? They want to know if he there. That's the respect that they had for the man. Right? They want to get in on Venezuela gas and they realize the way to that is through Keith Rowley and Stuart Young and Trinidad and Tobago. You heard Stuart say that he's on a first name basis with these guys, Meg O'Neill and all these other people. Forget some of the names, the BP, the head of BP Global, all these people who have him on speed dial, calling on him to get information and advice on certain things. Feel anybody calling Munilal? Please. You feel anybody calling Kamla? Get out of here. Not at all. Not at all. And so we went from being at the top of the ladder. We're not even close to the ladder anymore. Yeah. I know we viewing the ladder with binoculars. Yeah. And the supporters clapping that. Yes! Kamla do more in 1 year than Rowley and Stuart Young do in 10 years. Really? You're all right. She did more to damage relations with Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. That she did. You're correct. She did more to damage our prospects of earning far more than Stuart Young and Kid Rowley ever did. But all just happy to get a little crumb. Better than nothing. And making this crumb seem like, it's the whole cake. No, it's not. It's not. So you could fool the fully ducks. Fool the foolish. But not all of us out there came down on the last shower rain. All right? And we weren't born yesterday. I keep saying, some of us had to walk around with our birth certificate. So when you bounce up a UNC supporter, because hey, you see what this says here? I wasn't born yesterday. Okay? Nonsense. I read Rowley say, tighten your belt. So much more when we tighten the belt. We go dead. Eh? You will put the belt around my neck and hang himself. I'm not telling you better days, brighter days ahead. Brighter days ahead. And her minister coming to tell you now, next year, difficult year. No improvement. So if the play is hard now, what is going to happen next year? They hoping and praying that gas start to run by the end of next year and they get a little extra money. Certainly not the amount we would have gotten if the deals that had been negotiated by Stuart Young and they were still in place. Right? But remember the man tell earlier, Swarak saying 95 cents for every dollar that we anticipate to get. Not that what we get in, what we get in already spoken for. But even what we anticipate to get, what we get yet. 95 cents on every dollar is already spoken for. It has its owners. So don't hitch your wagon to that and expect, well, yeah, money going and run, things going and get better. No. It's not going to get better, at least not now anyway. So much for local government election next year and their hope that they could make a piece of money to fool people and buy votes. Pave road. This morning I went to after I left the church procession, I went down to Arangwes to collect something. And in the back in Arangwes there by Sukaya trees. Listen, roads in the back there, horrible. Going down in some big craters. Big craters. Okay? And I drive an SUV. But the PNM constituencies are the worst roads. Go in the back there. And land that was previously under agriculture. This is a government cares so much about agriculture, or the PNM didn't care about agriculture, diversification. Arable farmlands have now given way to apartments. That is apartment central. Every 2 feet you drive is an apartment building. You have one or two, and in between one or two of the apartment buildings, you'll find a little piece of land with some lettuce and some pak choy and maybe some tomatoes and sweet pepper or whatever. But that's about it. Everywhere else, in the back there, which used to be agriculture central, is now apartment central. All you see it, apartment for rent, apartment for rent. And the worst of roads. But PNM have the worst roads in their constituencies, right? How long now Arangwes under UNC? What have they done? They've been in office for 15 months. Nothing. They may pave and roll. They wanted on 10 years under PNM. We want the road paved. They want the road paved. How many roads have they paved since they've come into office? There's only patch here, patch. And in a month's time, the road bad again. Patch it again. No complaints from the UNC supporters. We taken that. We okay with patch. But for 10 years under the PNM, patch wasn't good. They ain't paving fast enough. Government said they're going to borrow $1 billion US to pave road. Oh, they're only borrowing a certain money to increase the debt to the GDP ratio, and they incurring debt for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to pave the same roads all they wanted. But now it's okay. Yeah, we don't care about suspension. That's all right. We don't care about ball joints. Okay, we will fix it. We will fix it. And if it takes 5 years, 2030 will come and they'll still be singing the same song. It's okay. Because they've now developed the patience of Job that they didn't have between 2016 to 2025. Okay. So brace yourself for another difficult year. He's minister in the Ministry of Finance, so he would know. They're in the process of finalizing the budget. They have about 1 more month to go. They've already done consultations with several business entities and with the ministries to find out how much money they want and what they need and all of that. So, yeah, not much work left to do on that. Even though now they're having consultation, budget consultation, so fool who? They're setting up a room, 60, 75 chairs, and only 10, 15 people turning up. So all they're doing, they're taking back shots now of the 3 rows of people, and you're still seeing the empty chairs in between. All they come up in front now. We have a room. Come in front, because we need to take a photo. So you're only seeing a photo of 3 rows of chairs. But somebody who there now wants spanning, and you see it, 75 chairs, 60 empty. Who are left fooling? People not interested. Or they're not interested in what it is you all have to say. I went on a walkabout yesterday in my constituency in Malabar with one of my councillors. And there was all who said that the PNM was a dictatorship. Oh, this is a communist. They want to turn the country into a communist state and all of that. Socialism, half of them don't even know the meaning of the word. They're advocating socialism and then talking about, oh, they want to turn the country into a socialist state. Imagine I'm walking, and of course it's customary when you go out on these walks and you meet people and so on, you will take a couple photos. Yes, but is it okay I can take a photo or whatever, to post on Facebook? So people could see that you're out there, because people saying, I ain't seeing my MP and the MP don't know. So you put it out there, they could see. The majority of people that we encountered, when we're taking a picture, they're like, no, don't take no picture. I don't want to no picture. I said, no, I don't want no picture, because I'm afraid next time I'll put it up on Facebook. I'm working in this ministry and I'm working in that ministry and I don't want to lose my job. Next thing somebody make me out in the picture and again I'm victimized. No, don't, I don't want no photos. This is where we have reached as a country, where people are afraid to take a picture with their member of parliament because they're afraid that somebody will see them in the photo and make them out, and that they could end up losing their job, their contracts will come to an end. Right? You taking a photo with your MP doesn't mean that you support that political party. Yes, there were 1 or 2 persons who were happy to declare that they are supporters of the PNM and who would say, listen, all I need to do something, right? All I need to do better, because these people, they're not easy. Pressure, all wrong. Yeah, time for you all to hit the streets. Time for you all to rally the people. That's what they're telling us. But not everybody say, well, some people say, okay, hi, nice to meet you, and so on. We ask them, you have any issues, complaints, whatever. I tell them, well, no, nothing major, Any issues with water? Well, not so much. Things have improved a little bit. We just have a little issue with the lights. Few street lights need to fix, because we've had some break-ins within recent time. We've had incidents where persons' batteries were stolen and the like. But otherwise than that, everything good. We just 1 or 2 little things. Nobody say I'm UNC or I'm PNM or whatever it is. But people are afraid to take photos because they figure they could lose their jobs. This is where we have come to in this country. 10 years under the PNM, people had no such concerns. As a matter of fact, they didn't mind cussing the councillor or the MP when they passed, when the PNM was in office. They didn't care. They weren't concerned that they would lose their jobs. Under this government, no such luck. You could catch it. Imagine I encountered a man. Man had a good job, good job in our ministry. Now packing bags, packing boxes in our grocery. From a senior position in our ministry to this is where he is today. He, his wife and his daughter all had vehicles. They had to sell all to be able to pay their mortgage. Right? And continue to pay their bills and so on. Thanks to this administration. I said when UNC win, everybody, but he didn't win, his family didn't win. They lost. Wife also was working in a ministry. She too lost her job. Both of them. Contracts came to an end. No renewal. And they couldn't care less, this government. But you're coming in my constituency to have joint budget consultation with the shadow MP for Arima. Last time they came with the same foolishness. When they take them on, they went and they pay some people to come and sit down, give everybody the same jersey, and happy to take photos. But don't call it a consultation because you're not consulting with anybody. You're just coming to tell people, well, we doing this and we do that and we did this and we... Please. And half the people that they bring there don't understand a thing they say, and you only see the people bepping on themselves when they see video footage. Like somebody on the street and they say, look, they're having something up the road, they boy, come now, you get a little something. Nah, they had thing to eat. Come now, we gonna... Yeah, we've been staying long. We're just going for 10 minutes. Just had to sit down for a little bit. They want to take some pictures to make the room look full now. But they had thing to eat and drink. Come, let we go. All right, there we go. So when you look at the people, some of the people who are sitting in on these consultations, you could tell these are people who couldn't care less. These are not the type of people that you would expect to go to these things. Right? So they just sit down there, who on their phone, who watching their fingernails, who looking bored and yawning down the place and just wondering when they're going to start to serve the food, right? How long again this going for? Any questions? And they hoping and praying, oh God, do ask no question. Do ask no question. All right, we wrap up. Hey, boy. David McIntyre saying, why do we have to wait on the outcome and energy deal with Venezuela? Because the PM mouth wrote checks her backside can't cash. A Trump card was Trump and that was pure failure. Exactly, but they know how to sell it to their supporters to make it seem as if they're doing such great things. So we just had to settle for whatever crumbs. I keep saying that's what it is. The dynamics have changed. Whereas we were in the driver's seat before, we're not even in the car. We're running down the car and hoping we could get to at least smell the exhaust, the fumes. Right? Meanwhile, BP and Shell, they're mashing that accelerator. And again, wait. Hoping for a red light so you can catch up. Right? That's how it was. When Stuarty was there in the driver's seat, Dr. Rowley in the passenger seat, front seat, and BP and Shell sit down in the back. Right? But we don't even have the courtesy of being in the back seat. You good, yes? But this is the best government ever. Thank God. Overwhelming mandate on the 28th. Thank God the people vote out the PNM. Plenty of people ain't singing that song now, though. They ain't saying that. Thank God. They're regretting. How many calls my office getting? You all having any book drive? You all having any back to school drive? Because people looking for stationery, they're looking for school bag, they're looking for help to purchase back to school supplies. Because they're still waiting on the book grant and they don't know when it's going to come. And school will be opening in 2 weeks. All over people asking, people saw me this morning during the procession, Mr. Romain, are you having any back to school drive? I said, well, we're working on stuff, because we've had a lot of requests of people who have events taking place in the constituency and they write to the office looking for help. And I keep telling people, we do not get money from the government to assist with these things. So any funding that we get is because out of the generosity of people who listen to my podcast and who will call and say, I want to make some contribution. I'm passing by your office to drop off something. I want to drop off some stationery. I want to drop off a few food vouchers. I want to make a contribution. You have a bank account I could send some money to? And we give them the constituency bank account for transparency. So any money that passes through there, we see how it is spent, who it is given to. They sign a voucher so that when the auditors come, they can see, well, okay, this money passed through this account. I don't want anybody send me any money or give me any money. That's how it works. And that's how we are able to help. Right? So this year has been a little tighter than last year. So kudos to my colleagues, Christian Birchwood, MP for Laventille East Mova. I saw he had something called One Bread, One Bag. Right? So he and his wife made bread and they were selling bread and they were encouraging people to please come and purchase the bread, and the funds, the proceeds from that bread sale would be used to purchase backpacks and stationery and so on. Right? So kudos to him. I think I saw he did a video. They were able to do 236 backpacks. Certainly, my office will not be able to do that much this year. I think last year we were able to do 150 or so. This year, we'll see how it goes. Now, there's a developing story or issue with respect to CDAP, where we are hearing that persons are encountering difficulties in getting most basic of CDAP drugs. And we know there are many people with chronic illnesses who depend on CDAP, people with diabetes, people with hypertension, and the like. And I saw where Rambles did one of his videos speaking to that issue. In fact, last night I met someone at the quick shop at a gas station on Ryson Road, who was telling me about the situation. She said it's true. She said, "You didn't see Ramble's latest post?" I said, "Yeah, I saw it." She said, "Well, yeah, what he's saying is in fact true." She said, "My mom on CDAP and we haven't been able to get the medication for quite some time now." Let's see if I play it here for you. Where is it? Let me get it here.
That ill, chronically ill, and elderly persons are facing. I was only made aware of it yesterday, and I'm highlighting it right now. We have a program called CDAP. If you have never heard of it, it's because you're probably too young and you don't need it yet, but one day you will. This program was started in 2003 or thereabout under Patrick Manning. Now, the importance of CDAP becomes important when you hear what it stands for. Chronic Disease Assistance Program. You don't have to be a special age, a special race, a gender. Once you are a tree, you are eligible for it. It's essentially the government giving you free medication. Persons who have hypertension, diabetes, cancer, and many others could have gone to the nearest pharmacy and had their prescription filled free of charge to them, but the state is actually paying for it, rather than going broke, spending thousands buying expensive medication. And one day, the program seemingly came to an end. Now, on paper, the program didn't end. On paper, the government said that they have expanded the program, but for some reason, many persons are complaining that they are going across the country and they can't get simple medication that they used to get 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago. High blood pressure, diabetes, even cancer patients are complaining. Imagine you will have cancer patients suffering because they can't get the medication via CDAP and they can't afford it on the outside. If this is not evil, then I don't know what is. I can't pinpoint anything outside of this that is not evil. Hundreds of comments, even in the inbox. So for some reason, my inbox don't work. I will see the preview, but once I click on the message, it never opens. So people might think I'm not responding to them, but I genuinely can't open or reply to the message. But even in the inbox, hundreds of messages in the inbox. But there's more. And like everything else with this government, it's not good. Because apparently they have been ramping up purchasing generic medication from India. Now on the surface, nothing is wrong with this. Generic medication is essentially the same formula, same everything, just as effective, but you're not paying for the brand name. So it's cheaper. So on the surface, it sounds good. But, and there's a big but behind it, apparently, the quality control for the generic medication out of India is hit and miss. Then pause to read for yourself. But yes, they're having some quality control issues. Now, India has a particular law that allows them to clone any medication being imported into India. It's a very technical loophole that I can't get into right now, but they are essentially able to legally clone other people's medication without infringing on patents. But the thing is, their quality control doesn't seem to be on par, which tracks with certain things I've been told in my inbox where persons are saying they're getting medication that doctors are saying, I wouldn't take that enough. I mean, if you can't find real thing here, but I wouldn't take it. Personally, I wouldn't take it. But if you can't find it, use it. And I'm like, so are we playing Russian roulette with people's lives? What exactly is going on here? Nobody come and say, well, $18 million worth of drugs was expired, and that's why. That's not the issue. That could never be the issue. If 2 years ago there were issues with CDAP, every now and then you will go, you can't get something, but for some reason, whatever issues were there has now been accelerated. Now, person said that some contractor was replaced and they get a new contract, and the contract's supposed to sign this week, and hopefully things improve. But you all are saying that you all are willing to let people suffer for almost 2 years while you all work out a contract issue behind the scenes?
When I see the post, this is good that I'm very sure I am not the only person who are accustomed to getting drugs and other CDAP that this government discontinue. My son, and since last year, June, got a prescription. Every time I go in the hospital, it's not available. Not available. They are no longer stocking it. Even my mother, my godmother, the drug that she accustomed getting for as a heart patient, they're not bringing it, they're not stocking it. This is something that happening across the board. I even see some ladies talking about how they have stage 4 cancer, and the drugs that they are accustomed getting through CDAP through the hospital, they're not getting it. This government stopping all kind of thing, partly, and nobody is saying nothing. Only few people talking about it. The ones who can afford it buying it. But this is something that is happening.
And why people suffer? They can't get the medication, they can't afford the medication and suffering in silence. You want to come and ask your body, say, house and brand man, gone from here, mass shoe, get down straight up. And this is my issue. You have persons on the radio and TV and being paid big money by the government, but they can't talk this talk publicly. The grandmother suffering, they themselves sick and need medication, but they can't talk this talk because why? You can stop the money, they can't stop the money. The money must keep running. Their own grandmother can't get the diabetic medication they need, but they can't talk. They're talking everything else except that. It's amazing to see how you knew that CDAP was so important while you were in opposition. And now you're there. You're in another place doing everything else except securing this. This is why I didn't want to let this money. This is why I didn't want it and I would never want it. I would never take it. This is why. Because I would have to sit down now in 2026 while this shit going on and see my neighbor suffering, the man down the road suffering, people in my inbox suffering, people in my chat suffering. I have to sit down now and try and deflect like, show my body say house receipts. You know something? You all out there, the citizens who suffering in silence, I blame you all for this nonsense too. Because all of you have access to the same internet I have access to. But you all sit down there suffering in silence. You wouldn't make a video and say, hey, my grandmother can't get she cancer medication 6 months now and she died. You wouldn't come and say that. Because they're afraid. You're also afraid this stupid drunk government. Afraid victimization, boy. Afraid they might come back from it. Imagine you afraid drunk and senile people. All this part of the damn problem too. Right now, there's a serious issue in the country.
Rambles knows how to put it, you know. It's not easy. Everybody afraid. All afraid. They're afraid to call Rowley pedophile and rapist and talk about red couch and who he sleep with and who he had love triangle with. Y'all weren't afraid to say that. You know why? Because you know there was no consequence. But water off a duck's back. No, your wife on him with a special branch officer, Indian police officer in special branch, and all that kind of talk. How he sleep with all the female ministers so that they could get appointed. The worst of things you all had to say about Dr. Rowley. But he was afraid. Now, you're walking on eggshells. Can't say this. Be careful, boy. If you say that, you might get locked up. Meanwhile, the detention orders against Mr. and Mrs. Hadid has been officially withdrawn. One more hurdle out of the way, paving the way for them to sue the state for wrongful detention. One more hurdle. So they're just waiting now, I think, on the Privy Council matter. And then, they could deal with the situation after that. But I'm not hearing the supporters of the other side, the yellow people now, who, when the charges were dropped against Ram Logan and Ramdeen, was telling us how much millions and millions they're going and sue the state for wrongful arrest. How many years later? No lawsuit? Two of the best attorneys this country is supposed to have, and they are yet to sue the state for wrongful, malicious prosecution. All these millions they could get, they're not interested. These men who allegedly sold love money, really? I wish some of you UNC supporters could tell us what is the hold-up. What's the hold-up? What are you waiting on to sue? If it was you would have waited this long? But when we were telling earlier, Vincent Nelson provided receipts, dates, amounts, bank account numbers, when he sent the money, what case that money was attached to. And he gave all the stories about the whole conspiracy, how the money used to go into an account in Scotiabank belonging to Mr. Ramdeen, and how Mr. Ramdeen used to withdraw the cash and provide it to Mr. Ram Logan, and how being unable to put the money in the bank, being unable to account for it, it was being spent in cash, renovations to his house, and when a whole wing was done and so on, and he didn't like how it was done, tell him, demolish it and do it over because money had to spend. No, he lied. The PNM pay him to say that. There are no proof. Indemnity. Okay, well, if he lied, why hasn't these two gentlemen sued Mr. Nelson for defamation, for libel? Why didn't sue him? Sue he and sue the government for malicious prosecution. More than 3 years now, no lawsuit. When you ask them to explain that, what they tell you? HYMC. That's all they could say. Cannot defend the indefensible. Let me see if I get this here. Where is it? Where is it? Let me get it here. Right, just now, this now. Let's see. No, I see this thing, huh? No, 1 second here, folks. What's the time there? Oh Lord. Meanwhile, they still have Star Sabga under house arrest, and we're hearing conflicting stories with respect to who she's allowed to see and not see. No, she's not allowed to leave the house. A 70-year-old woman. We are reading that she would have lost some 29 pounds since her initial detention back in July. Right, at 70 years old, losing that amount of weight. I don't think she would have been grossly overweight. So, yeah, let's know. Let me get this here. Where is it? 1 second, huh? So where is this? Right. Almost a month after businessman Dominic Hadid and his wife Genevieve Hadid were released from detention under the state of emergency regulations, legal notices revoking the orders made against them were published in the Gazette. Legal notices 650 and 651, published on August 20th, stated that the Minister of Homeland Security, Roger Alexander, revoked the detention orders against the couple on July 23rd. The notices were issued under paragraph 9 of the schedule to the emergency powers regulations. The publication of the revocation orders formally recorded the cancellation of the detention orders that had been made against the couple during the state of emergency. The revocation orders were signed by Alexander on July 23rd, the same day the couple was released from detention. With no charges, no evidence, and all I get, oops, yeah, sorry, yeah, sorry. That sorry needs to come with a check, and a substantial check at that. Right? For the embarrassment that you all caused, depriving our children, putting our children through that trauma of not being able to see their parents for almost 1 month. All of these different things, yeah, tarnishing the reputation of the man's business, loss of earnings, loss of contracts. Oh, the list goes on and on and on. What I tell you, threat to national security, this plot, this conspiracy. Really? Last year they tell us, yeah, no parade, because we can't have all these dignitaries in the same place. This year was different. You have a whole set of bomb threats this year that they didn't have last year. Bomb threats, but you're not concerned about having all these people in the same place. This year, the threat is not so great. This year. Okay. All right. So, they told us it was going to cost $2-something million to host this year's event, right? With the fireworks and everything. Now, I'm sure at that time they did not contemplate that they were going to have to spend all this set of money for paving the Savannah, portion of the Savannah, putting down Bailey Bridge. Now, all over the country have places that begging for bridge, They can't find Bailey Bridge, but they were able to find 2 to put in the Savannah for 1 day. 2. Okay. At what cost? We don't know. And all Alexander, you will get that information in a subsequent notice. Subsequent notice, don't worry. Arrests are imminent with respect to these alleged bombing. Well, bomb threats. Okay. But the PNM was the worst government ever. And? All right. Let's see what they say here. All right. So I see Zuku talking something here, but I have no idea what he's referring to. He's responding to Precious, saying that was caused by PNM. Remember, you do have sense. Okay, let me see what it is. If I can figure out what is he talking about here. Jenny.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi.
MP Roman. I try to remember my manners.
That's quite all right. Quite all right.
And so I'm going to fact seven things. Isn't basically what Minister Saraxin said is the tighten your belt?
Correct.
So he can say that after the UNC would have chastised the PNM government and the conversation about Dr. Rowley take the 40-something%. You know, it's not 40-something%. I don't know why it wasn't ventilated properly by the PNM. But Dr. Rowley takes 40-something% from the SRC and he get big money, but he wants to give the union and them 4%.
Yes.
Not looking at it that in 2013, the SRC, under Ms. Kamala Prasad as Prime Minister, came with an increase in salaries for parliamentarians and about 900 plus senior public officers, and it was rejected. They were told by the opposition government, go back. Basically, they're putting it my way. That's not enough, go back. When they came back under Dr. Rowley, he accepted it for Kamala Prasad Bissessa, for Barry Paradat, for Saddam Hussein, Khadija, the whole opposition bench, the whole PNM bench, the whole THA administration, and 900 public senior officers got increases. When the UNC came into office, they didn't say, here what, you see that increase with Rowley get? We don't want that. We stayed on the 2013 salary, and we don't want that money. All of them take it, and they bring whatever legislation, whatever it is, that they get back pay one time. They don't talk about that. So I'm moving on quickly. Dr. Rowley was talking about PSA. No, I don't like to get in other unions business for PSA. All of them went economic presentation, commented, the CPO, everybody was there, and they show a presentation. This is what the economy at Trinidad and Tobago looks like. If only wants more than 10 for 4%, this is the money we have to pay, and we do have it. But if you take the 4% now, and I would say PSA is also at fault where we didn't have a settlement at 2 outstanding periods because the Civil Service Act states that the union could initiate the start of negotiation, or the CPO who is directed by the Minister of Finance. So if only 3 years pass and the CPO is calling order to come to sit down, or they should write to the CPO and say, hey, we're ready. And if the CPO not responding, whatever, all they like to run the court, take this section of the act for judicial review in the court. Some people say it's never been done, but I will precedent is about. And say, here, what, we ready, but them ain't ready. So they could have done something, but for PSA, it was politics. So let that 14-16 pass, because Drew did form the party, he was a politician. So if the PNM did settle with him and whatever, it will not look good for the party. So 14-16 pass, 17-19 pass, because that one who is the Minister of Labour, he was Drew consultant all that time. All that passed, and then we reached out to the government and say, hey, come out of COVID-19, come out of recession. We can't pay more than 4%. They said, no, they don't want it. He said, tighten your belt. But by 2027, things will be a little smoother because he knew the contracts that Stuart Young and himself would have signed on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago in the oil sector, the gas sector, and all that. Tighten your belts a little bit. No, Felicia and the present Minister of Labour, Leroy Baptiste, last year for PSA election, before the election they campaigning, they walk around, they say the government looking at the grand bar, the PNM. But if you vote for UNC, You get 10%, start a negotiation, 10%, not the wicked 4%, 10%, 10%. And Mr. Romain, people fall for that. They went and vote UNC. First thing we get $20,000 partial payment at the 10%, and we hear 60% is non-cash payment. There was no agreement on non-cash. And then the foolish guild went and said, we don't want no 60% non-cash, you want 80% cash and 20% non-cash, facilitating the foolishness. However, to this day, teachers can't get their money, NUTF can't get their money, amalgamated workers can't get their money, everybody can't get their money. And today you have a Ministry of Finance saying, tighten your bill because the government, they have no money. But I thought we get money now as BP and Shell, they sign contract with Venezuela to develop this field and that field. I thought the money come in. So how come they could be telling me every cent we're coming in, 95% of that done tie up, and there's only 5% remain? How we reach from 10%, and you PNM wicked and evil, and they don't want to give people their money. And with PNM went and sit down and make deal, and all that, how we reach to now tighten your belt after we see the Prime Minister and all of them exciting news in the energy sector. Oh God, if I see the smile on the face, I say, well, what should I check at them swallow boy that them thinking so? To hear BP and Shell sign contract with Venezuela, Trinidad, and nobody, and we don't know what we get. And now again, the Minister in Finance come to tell me, tighten your belt, 10,500 CPF workers home, URP workers, reforestation workers, contracted workers, everyday people losing their work, and you're telling people now, tighten their belt, if they have no money. Come, listen now. Listen now, people at Trinidad and Tobago, under Dr. Rowley, always say, all was suffering. He's a dictator.
Yeah, oppressor.
He's wicked. He's an oppressor. He's too black and ugly. He lied. All kind of thing. While car was selling out the showroom, the people workers was working, URP was working, in forestation was working, Carnival Fest was 300 and something. Last year they could only muster about 100 is so much. Music was playing, people was whining, people was drinking, and it was cussing around. It had no SOE, it had no PDO, it ain't had your PRC that you can call Rowley all kind of name. Pedophile, rapist, he's this and that. You're free on the PNM to open your mouth. All they want that. All the thing was running smooth. Remember, give him that. He had everything in order, and they were mixing, matching, thinking, make sure we have money. COVID-19, all of it, they getting paid. We was home, getting paid, getting working, food basket, all kind of thing. All about Dr. Rowley is a tyrant, a dictator, Mr. Fred. Well, the gods have answered all the prayers. Unfortunately, we in Trinidad will now see dictator. We will now see tyrant. We will now feel sufferation. Thank you, Mr. Romain. Have a blessed week. Everybody look there on yourself.
Thank you, Jen. So I saw Randall Mitchell posted put up a post on his Facebook a few days ago. It was a trip down memory lane. A little reminder, and relative to the situation with Star Sabga, right? And this private conversation that she was having with her niece, Genevieve Hadid, and we know the term that she used to describe Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. We heard it once in the conversation, and Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would have used that several times in posts to describe herself, to rile up her base and so on. And PNM racist and PNM racist and PNM always. You all remember this? I just played a little bit of it. But tell me if you all remember this, right?
What is your contact number that you used to sign up for your service?
647-1204, Nalini Ramai, 22 Ramai, Chris David.
Thank you for calling Player Services, Kara speaking. How may I assist?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Let me tell you something, right? Right? I paid my bill and I paid to watch this DTV. I am paid to watch no freaking nigga, okay? Why does other put on the Indian channel and put on the sugar local shows in the Indian DTV? DTV is a freaking international show. That when I took my packages from the mobile and the transfer thing, I paid to watch my Indian show. I don't pay to watch I'm thinking Rowley and he's thinking freaking piano people. Okay? Why does other have to put on them local thing in DTV? DTV is a freaking international show station. Why all they don't want to, if all they don't wanted to have Rowley and his taking nigga people, put it in local shows. Why does that is what I take for that is why I take the package for to watch DTV to watch my Indian show, not no nigga and Rowley and his nigga people. What?
You remember that? I don't recall Dr. Rowley putting out several posts referring to himself as a stinking N-word that you heard her just use there, right? Several times. And the video still has a minute and 25 seconds of her ranting about she don't want to hear no stinking Rowley and N-word and PNM and dirty. Yeah. And compare and contrast. Dr. Rowley, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. Here it is that we have this lady calling a public entity, right? Call was recorded. Similar circumstance, well, sort of. But they tell you your call would be recorded for whatever, right? You heard that there. As opposed to a private conversation that was recorded by the authorities and somehow leaked. And Prasad Bisesa was referred to once as a stinking right. She put out several posts subsequent to that referring to herself as a stinking, saying as Rowley supporters and his PNM supporters and everything who's saying that, referring to the 1% as yeah. But and that's the 1 minute that I played there. You heard this woman, how many times she referred to stinking Rowley and he N-word and PNM and all that. I just want to, as I said, compare and contrast. Dr. Rowley didn't jump on that and put out several posts and refer to himself as that. He didn't define the UNC or define a percent of the population based on this lady saying these things. He didn't say, the UNC, the whole of the UNC raises or whatever it is. I'm sure he heard it. I remember when this came out, it made the rounds and it was on social media. Right? But just take note of it. Who really pushing division along the racial lines? Who really doing it? And I'm sure we haven't heard the last of Prasad Bisesa using that term to describe herself whenever she's criticized by PNM, somebody in the PNM or so, or Dr. Rowley or whoever, to put out that. Pretty sure. But I just thought I'd take you all back down memory lane to jog the memory of the UNC supporters now. That when you all like to accuse the PNM of being racist and the PNM always blowing the racial dog whistle, understand where it comes from. That this lady will pick up the phone and call to complain that they cut out ZTV, which is an international, it's an Indian station, and she don't want to see no stinking Rowley and he N-word PNM. Just saying that. Right. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Daniel, I say Dr. Rowley never used those words. Exactly. Never. Whether written or otherwise. He never come to the parliament and describe himself as that. Never. But Prasad Bisesa, she did it. Call herself that first. It against you. But we know this lady here, Nalini, ain't supporting the PNM. We know Nalini, of what race Nalini is. Just saying that. Let's put in that on. Brian.
Good evening to you, MP Romain.
Greetings.
Good evening to your listeners and callers. MP Romain, I want to go in a different direction, if you don't mind.
Feel free.
MP Romain, last week,
Mhm.
the chairman of NGC indicated that there was a $3.4 billion NGC profit.
Yes.
Now, I don't think it was explained whether it was before or after pre-audited or pro-audited. I don't know. You know, but he was able to boast that. And this is for your listeners, your good listeners who listening to now. So many of them would have read about it or heard it. That they were boasting, that she was boasting of $3.4 billion profit. Now, you read something from Mariano Brown.
Yes.
And you and I spoke about this last week, Sunday. And just to put things in perspective, the gas production has not gone up from daily from between 2.4 and 2.6 billion.
Right.
Right? Now, we're not getting any cross-border gas yet. I want people to listen to this, you know. We're not getting any cross-border gas yet. We're not getting manatees yet.
Right.
We're not getting calypso really as yet. We're not getting gingers yet. All of these things are supposed to come on stream sometime in the future.
Yes.
Exxon Mobil still doing the seismic research and so on in the ultra deep water. So we don't know what's happening there as yet. But NGC is claiming a $3.4 billion profit.
Yeah.
I want to ask the good listeners, based on what you all heard the MP spoke about with respect to the op-ed from Mariano Brown. Outside of the profit being made from because gas prices may have gone up a bit, because oil is still at $94 a barrel, up to at least Friday, right? But it'll eventually go down because certain things are boiling down to a certain degree in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
Right, because the goodly president of the North is looking at his good friend, North Korean president. But that's another story. So I want to ask you all, where did I get this profit from? And who has audited this? Because you remember, just about 3 or 4 months ago, when Modi attempted to give their report on what is going on with NGC, they threw out Moody's. So we cannot verify and confirm what he is saying is in fact so. We are taking it for granted that what he is saying is in fact so. So if Moody's was coming with something, as he said, negative, Moody's has no... Hello?
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Moody's has no horse in the race. Neither does the other auditing firm with respect to Standard & Poor's when they said we are just above junk bond status with BBB minus with a negative outlook, and things ain't looking good. And then we have now the minister in the Ministry of Finance coming and giving us about the 94 or 95% of every 95 cents on every dollar going into next year. And they've already told us that the budget deficit should be upwards of $7 billion. And they have all of these people who are waiting on their 10%. Who are we to believe about this $3.4 billion? Who are we to believe? Every time the UNC is in office, is a bomb scare, is an assassination attempt. It's not, but these things never come to pass. Never comes to pass in all these years that they have been in office. But we are being fooled and they're telling us 3.4%. But nobody used to verify and confirm. But yes, it is 3.4% unaudited or audited. These figures. So are we to believe a man who just got into an attorney at law by profession, who just recently, just less than 2 years, got into NGC as chairman, and he all of a decided all of a sudden he's the best thing since sliced bread, better than Georgia, who has bought back billions of dollars from BP and Shell and all of these firms because based on what the UNC did between 2010 and 2015. And now we must also remember that our royalties have now been dropped according to the UNC from 12.5% to 8%. So who are we to believe? And we told you all that when the gas begins to come, they have to see about their shareholders and their taxes and Venezuela first. And all we will be getting is the 10% for trains 2, 3, and 4. Plus we may get a little bit of gas, maybe coming to NGC. We don't know yet. We don't know how much, and we don't know in what quantities, and we don't even know the price.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the economy of this country? Where are we going to be? What other excuses? We heard from MP Karim Marcel about what is going on in East Port of Spain, that people have been getting letters very quietly and surreptitiously, letters to go home. A lot of the workers to go home. And just now is September 18th. And guess who next? Hilton. And so it continues. Once your contract is up, that's it. It will not be renewed. No 10% for PSCT workers where they're making a profit. The last chief executive officer has been sent home after he would have negotiated with Ms. O'Shea on behalf of the workers. And the minister is saying they worry about that. That ain't true. And this is where we are going. So who do we believe? And now we have police posts and we don't know how much it costs yet. About how many police? We don't even know yet. With a car. And somebody will get a contract to dispose of the waste because they have to dispose of the waste. Then they get a hole in the ground by them police posts. So somebody will get a nice contract to dispose of the waste from 30 police posts. Plus lights, plus water, plus cleaning out place. And 30 cars according to the Minister of Homeland Security. 30 vehicles. So it is really going on in this country. What it is really, really and truly going on. And they haven't told us what is the cost. Well, they said $2.6 million according to the Minister of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
But for what I see in North of the Queen's Park Savannah, that is looking like $2.6 million to me. And I've always told my friends, I said, anything UNC building, it must have at least a kickback for somebody. But they don't build nothing just for the people. So who getting what as far as that is concerned? Who get the contract for that? They have told us absolutely nothing. And so we will continue down the road and we'll get up Monday morning and we will hear something. We get Tuesday morning and hear something else. Correct. And on and on and on we go. And we up to now, they tell us who get the contract for the fireworks. But I will tell you who it is not. It ain't Fire One. Understand? Good evening, Mr. Ghani. But so we continue down the road. And so we will be getting news of all of the corrupt activity that's being will be hearing nothing about excited what is being played in the news clips. It's not even making primetime news on television. We ain't hearing nothing more about it. And we will continue down this road until 2030. And that will be the end of that. Nobody will be arrested. It makes no difference. The police commissioner left the country for 5 days. We don't know for what reason. We don't know what for. He came back and he gave a report. It's police business. Okay, fine, no problem. But what is it all about? And then there was something on Friday about this lady who is in hiding outside of Trinidad and Tobago, Rose Marchand. I did not hear the news on Friday because my television was given some problem. But there was some issue with Rose Marchand. I'm hoping to get it played back so I can hear exactly what it is all about. Are they looking for Rose Marchand, who's a witness to what transpired in Life Sport? I don't know. I just asked him a question. I don't know. I didn't hear anything as I said, I didn't hear any news on Friday evening. I don't know if you heard about it.
I read something somewhere where the PSC, I think it's the Public Service Commission, wants to declare her post that she abandoned her job. Yeah. So.
And that's it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
right. So she remains in hiding until when, and all the information that she has, because she was our first-hand witness to what went on in life sport. So Mark Bassat got accolades in Guyana for his reporting on life sport. And that is the end of that. No jail time for nobody. And people continue to rant and rave and become ministers and get money from the public funds and so on. And everything is all good and nice and dandy, and all is well. And you open your mouth for 2 seconds, and next thing you know, you're behind bars. But Zoso come in, because I think the present President Kangaroo, her term ends sometime, I believe it is next year. And when that happens, we will see what will happen to the independent bench of the Senate, and who will be on the independent bench of the Senate, and who will be President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and how many laws they'll be able to pass, and whether or not the independent bench will be really and truly independent. I wait with bated breath. Because so common. You see this thing about SOE that they keep coming back to the parliament to beg for a few months and all that kind of thing. They want to put an end to that.
Yes.
So when they put people behind bars for Zoso, they'd rather come back to the parliament. Watch this piece. Something is coming. Have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you. Of course, there's a story in today's Express. It says here, Ghanaian Yam project abandoned, despite promising early results. So all the UNC supporters who love to ask about where the yam and when the yam come in. The yam came and it was planted. The Shade House project down in Chagaramas that was yielding results, right? For the same at-risk youth that all is okay about. Same at-risk youth, all the programs that you all shut down. Take a drive down Tucker Valley and see the gate shut. All of these shade houses overgrown with grass, nothing happening down there. The PNM had nothing for the youth. The PNM had doing nothing for the youth. The Chagaramas Convention Center that the PNM was turning into an apprenticeship center, right? Drive down there, went down there day before. And so you see all the classrooms that were being outfitted and so on. That project is abandoned. Right? They were creating that so that the young people could go down there and learn something. In addition to all the other programs that they had. Abandoned. All of you all who complain, oh, the PNM, they refused to open the UE campus in Debe, and they refused to open the Cuba Children's Hospital. Where are you all now? Where are you, bleeding hearts? No concern for the Chagaramas, the apprenticeship youth apprenticeship center there. Concern about that. When Kamala told you all the reason why the PNM didn't want to open the Cuba Hospital and the UE campus in Debe is because they perceive South to be Indian. You all, where are you all? Oh, discrimination, they think, and it's because the 15 months. If the PNM was still in office, that I'm sure that facility would have been completed now. By now, and it would probably have been in use. Offering several different courses for the young people. That same Shade House program, that the gates are now chained and it is overgrown. Money was spent there to put in all of those facilities there and the young people there. I recall seeing posted on Foster Cummins' Facebook page when he was still Minister of Youth Development and National Service, where he went down there and they had crops available for sale. That is to tell you how advanced the program was. They closed the gates, shut down the program, and go home. Or you call earlier. It's temporary. It's under review. Don't worry. Yeah. 15 months later, they're still waiting. But they're so care about diversifying the economy. Diversifying the economy. For 10 years, Ralph Maraj, Jam Rowley, and Jam Imbert, they ain't doing enough to diversify the economy. And this all they want is oil and gas and only focusing on the energy sector. And we need to diversify. You can do a whole article to tell us how many coconut trees they plant in Guyana. Everything we know. Every Sunday telling you about all that happening in Guyana and in Barbados and Rebels and all the other things they're doing to diversify their economy. What is government doing to diversify our economy? All they're talking about now is cross-border gas. Cross-border gas. Didn't want to hear about that. Only gas, the refinery, interests, all these companies that have interests, energy sector booming. Chairman of NGC, Ramdeen, more money, don't worry, profits going up. So the focus now is on the energy sector again. Where is Ralph Maraj? Where is he? Every time he make a guest appearance now in the Express newspaper, it's to cuss Rowley and cuss him both. Like he forget they're out of office more than a year now. Right? And he no longer concerned about diversification. Kamala bad talking, CARICOM. The US and Rowley mash up relations with the US and thing and all of that. But all of a sudden, Ralph get pip. Tongue get pip and his fingers too. Let me just take Eric here and wrap up this because I know just now at the head of the road. Eric.
Good afternoon to you, sir. Good afternoon, Member of Parliament for the constituency of Malabam, Africa.
Greetings.
Callers, the listeners, the viewers, everybody who made a contribution to Brian and to Jen and everybody. Now, let me just correct one thing with Brian there. Brian, the term of the president ends in 2028. So she has approximately a year and a half there again before her term expires. Right? So we know come 2028, they're going to put things in place to go a particular way with the things so that he stated that they're going to implement, not one to it, they're going to implement it in 2028 when the president is when the president will take office, sorry. Right? Now, all of this played out here, MP, is nothing new. What would have transpired between 2010 and 2015. But this time around, it is 10 times worse than how it was back then. Because if you could have former UNC ministers and MPs coming out and chastising and talking about the apartheid governance that this administration is portraying to the people in this country, that alone says a lot. Right? Now, we don't talk about the energy sector that we're going to get in the coming months and years. Right? Now, you all want to keep praise and we are getting good profits and cross border and Would it be benefiting Trinidad and Tobago? Because from what I read, the president of Venezuela labeled the prime minister currently as persona non grata. So I want to know if any talk would have taken place between both parties, because I am seeing in the media and on social media that Shell and BP are the ones that really had the signed agreement with both the fields and them in both countries. So I want to know if it's going to benefit the country and in what way and what the percentage we're going to get in profit for the country. So they're hoping that comes through, so they will build on their promises that the 10% from the PSA and this one and that one and the other. But it goes to show that when you promise somebody something, they say a promise is a comfort to a bloody fool. And the people in this country, the same thing they did in 2010, we will rise. Who is rising? Who rose between that 5-year period when they was there in the first incarnation? Who rose? You come back again this time. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Who is winning? Even your own base complaining. Your own base that vote on it every election complaining. But then again, to MB, all of the complaining. If the election comes tomorrow morning, they're going to vote them back right there. That's how they are. They are a bunch of past thinkers. They only see race and not about country. And the Prime Minister said it is about party, not country. Otherwise, go to hell. She said it. coming to the on the heat of the independence celebration this year as we celebrate 64 years as an independent nation. The last 9 years, from 2016 to 2025, not one in the opposition, including opposition leader, would have mounted the savannah to pay homage to our historic achievement over the years from then till now going forward. But last year, only claimed that they were threats to do X, Y, and Z. So what made 365 days difference between then and now? Only stated it at 40 bomb threats all across the country, but yet still independence for it going on. What is some him of faith and tell me rain falling there? Some seeing him of faith and tell me rain falling. All they could only full on the waterfront. It's not the country. All they had ulterior motives with this independence celebration. This independence day parade having here next Monday. Indeed, this is just a facade. This is a facade to make it look as if they are so unified and they're so about patriotic. The UNC party is not a patriotic party. The UNC party is a Indian-based Hindu methodology party. All them see and study is race and party. It's not about the well-being or the welfare of this country. So this independence parade is trying to put on for the public to see that they're so unified and so patriotic. It's a bunch of hogwash to fool the people to make it believe that they are so in tune with the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, with every creed and race on an equal place. Not this UNC government. All them seeing is to victimize, punish, and divide this country on the racial terms. The Prime Minister said it. So even though you're a Prime Minister could come out and they have these PROs on your social media platforms posting on your behalf all this rubbish and rhetoric about this little schedule and all. Empty, that is a window or a door for people of their base to come out blatant and boldly to call persons of the ethnic group in the African community the big N word. That is a gateway. So she just say that she gave them opportunities to come out and say such, to call persons of the African community the N word. Simple man. By doing that, because you come out and say, oh, you're waiting for the masses to come out to boo you. No, they boo you. If you are so a great Prime Minister, you know, for everybody, nobody would have the cause to have anything ill or nothing good to say about you. You understand? You govern, you rule into government under the pretense of when UNC wins, everybody wins. Who is winning at this present time? Who is winning? You understand? It's your friends, financiers, and people who look like you winning. You understand? The emancipation celebration going there is about the race again. And then you have this dotish man called is his name again, boy? Oh God, the state board, the chairman of the TV was again. Anyway, we have no important. We need come out and say, oh, you're going to do it again. And it's about unifying the citizens. Nothing wrong with that. African Trinidadians in this country have never been racial against any other ethnic group. Anytime PNM is there, for the last 70 years, they never see no division, no separation. Everything, everybody, and every single human being getting a slice of the pie, whether it's 40 corporations or the 41 constituencies. But anytime the UNC go there, it's about south at the Caribbean River, let the eastern corridor, catch the ants, uncle and linen. That's what we're doing with them right now. And we as a people, we saw what they did in 2010 and they tried to take a gamble because they have unions in this country in bed with the government. Felicia Thomas, a big waste of space. Leroy Batiste, a big waste of space. Anthony Rose, a big waste of space because you sat and take all kinds of about Canada back in 2015. Right? And today now, they put a same thing in and they go back and bed with the UNC. Other unions in the is a failure to this country. Total failure. You understand? And before I go MP, I hear you talking about the homicide rate and all them things. Let me give you a little synopsis of what transpired here, right? Now, from since January this year until the 23rd of today, right? This country experienced 14 double homicides. 14 double homicides within January and as of August 23rd, right? Out of that 14 homicides, 28 persons would have been victims, right? We experienced 5 triple homicides within the last 8 months, 15 victims, and 1 quadruple, 4 victims. So in total, 47 victims were killed in 14 double homicides, 5 triple, and 1 quadruple, right? As of January 2nd, there was double in Lavantil. January 5th, St. James. February 13th, Uva. February 20th, Bigo Martin. February 21st, Punapuna. March 31st, St. James. April 26th, Valencia. May 31st, Pinal. June 4th, Londonville. Right? June 5th, Barataria. July 18th, Siparia. August 9th, Arima. August 21st, Faizabad. August 22nd, Arima. The triple, February 27th, Port of Spain. March 23rd, Pinal. May 7th, Belmont. May July 18th, Lavantil, and the quadruple and Mova on April 19th. They only 4 they haven't the double, the triple, I got the same monopoly with the homicide in this country right now. Yeah, so we know what the actual figures, as the rightfully said, what is below 625, it's all the land goes under this administration. But when UNC wins, everybody wins. And this good program to join, lots of listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, folks, for joining me. And with that, I will take my leave for this week. All right. So as I always say, have a productive week, an enjoyable one. Stay safe. If you live in the East, as I said, there is entertainment for you this afternoon in Arima, in the heart of Arima, opposite the Santa Rosa Catholic Church. In that park there, I understand that there would be live entertainment, parang and stuff this afternoon, and also as well the First People's Village. They too will be having live events as well. So you could choose, you could patronize both. I'm sure both would appreciate it because both need the funding desperately. All right, so always a pleasure to be with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will chat again next Sunday. Yeah. Oh yes, next week Sunday the PNM is also having the second event at City Hall. Let me just get the correct name for it here. I don't want to give you wrong info. For the love of liberty, celebrating our nation, honoring our heritage, and inspiring our future. All right, so join the People's National Movement as we commemorate independence with an afternoon of reflection, celebration, and national pride. Feature address, political leader of the People's National Movement, Penelope Beckles Robinson, and special guest speaker will be former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, Sunday, 30th August 2026 from 3 to 6 p.m. at City Hall, Port of Spain, and it's a free event and all are welcome. So if you have some time next Sunday, please feel free to join us. And again, if you have some time this evening, you can come up to Arima, and who knows, I might bounce you up and we can might be able to have a discussion. And then Zuku wants me to talk about money. When we talk about money, I don't have no time to talk about money. You read what you read, all right? That is internal PNM business. Okay, are you a PNM member? You have a PNM party card? I doubt you have either. I doubt you can subscribe to either. All right? So if you want to know about Manning, you call back. You call Brian Manning. Brian Brian has a public page. Send him a message on Facebook Messenger, and you talk to him there. Okay? I responsible for what is happening in my constituency of Malava Mausika. That's where my focus is. Right? What's going on in other constituencies? That's not my business. So Anand said, leave it there, that's speaking to. I haven't heard from Leave It There in a while. I must try and reach out to him. Folks, we'll chat again soon. All right, take care.